Ladies and gentlemen, let us begin our journey today with what I consider to be a rhetorical question. And that question is, who doesn't like bacon? And who wouldn't want bacon for life? And yes, before people start reaching out to me, I understand that there are probably some of you right now who are screaming, I don't want bacon, I don't like bacon, and you shouldn't be eating bacon either. And here's the deal. I get it for those people who don't like it, all right? Live your life how you want to, and let me and other bacon lovers live our life how we want to. If you like the idea of bacon for life, check this out. Today's episode of the podcast is brought to you by ButcherBox. And for a small time window, and specifically December 1st through December 22nd, new members will get bacon for life with their first ButcherBox order, plus free shipping. Some of you might be asking, well, what is ButcherBox? And in essence, it's a brand that believes that we can do better. Their goal, deliver 100% grass-fed, grass-finished beef, free-range organic chicken, heritage breed pork, and wild-caught seafood directly to your doorstep. You can trust that the high-quality meat that you put on your table each day is better for you and your family, the farmers, the animals' welfare, the businesses involved, and in general, our planet. Here's what they promise. High-quality meat. Delicious 100% grass-fed beef, free-range organic chicken, heritage breed pork, and wild-caught seafood. At an unbeatable value, the average cost is less than $6 per meal. With flexibility, there's options with these boxes, whether that be what's in the box itself or delivery frequency to fit your needs. And you can cancel anytime at no penalty, which is awesome. They offer convenience, right? Who doesn't like great tasting, high quality meat that you can feel good about sitting right on your doorstep or already in your freezer? And it allows you to make decisions that actually make a difference. Caring about the animals and our planet at the same time is totally possible. You can improve the livelihoods for the farmers and create better meals that are enjoyed together. Like I mentioned at the beginning, December 1st through December 22nd, new members are going to get bacon for life with their first ButcherBox order plus free shipping. So you need to go check this out. butcherbox.com/clearedhot. When you get there, make sure to enter your email address so you can access the deal that I mentioned. ButcherBox gives customers access to high-quality meat at an affordable price, and you never pay for shipping. With ButcherBox, you're going to get 100% grass-fed and grass-finished beef, free-range organic chicken, heritage breed pork, and more delivered to your doorstep, saving you time and money. No matter where you live, every family now has access to high-quality cuts of meat at the most affordable prices. I highly recommend that you check these guys out. butcherbox.com/clearedhot. Up your protein game. This episode of the podcast is also brought to you by the Personal Defense Network. Let us be honest. 2020, if it was a candle, would be a dumpster fire. That would be the scent that I would select. And in addition to the smell, there's been some challenges. Perhaps you would use the description upheaval when it comes to the world that we are living in, specifically the United States. And many people, I think, are coming to the realization that law enforcement may not always be there, and the ability to act as your own first responder, specifically to defend yourself and your family, well, for some, it has never been more important or critical. That is why when the Personal Defense Network reached out about sponsoring an episode of the podcast, I was extremely interested. I personally take the approach that I need to be my own first responder at all times, but I have the benefit and good fortune of my military background. What I don't have is a really good place to point people towards so they can develop their own breadth and depth of knowledge, education, and understanding. And that is one of the things I like most about the Personal Defense Network. It has the world's largest collection of high-quality educational self-defense material on the internet. And it's not even really close for second place. There's everything from firearms to self-defense to home defense training. The Personal Defense Network is an educational community built by people just like you that provides vital yet easy to understand real-world tips, techniques, and tactics. The Personal Defense Network team has the world's best instructors, and they've been delivering life-saving information to people like you for over 15 years. If you're interested, if you're curious, this is a new one, so pay attention. text the code cleared hot, all one word, and I'm looking at it as it's all uppercase. I don't know if that matters, but it is certainly all one word, cleared hot, to 474747. And the discount that I'm going to talk about here in a minute is going to be automatically applied at checkout. What discount, you might ask? Well, their premium membership will be just $3 for the first full year. That is correct. That is not a typo or a speaking error. $3 for a membership that is normally $69. So you can figure out the savings on that one on your own. And what you're going to get is access to hundreds of videos and classes. I will leave you with this. It is never too soon to start being prepared. I have been told this is one of the best offers that PDN has ever put out there. So take advantage of it if it speaks to you. Do your research, personaldefensenetwork.com. And when you're ready, text code cleared hot to 474747. And that's it. My guest today has a fascinating story. And I don't think he would describe it as fascinating. I think I can say that because I didn't actually have to live through it. His name is Keith Berry. He is a retired Navy SEAL. Started in the SEAL community, I think less than a year after I did, because he was 5 BUDS classes behind me. Pretty sure there's still 6 per year, so we're within 12 months of starting the pipeline. And he then launched over to the East Coast, where I started my career on the West. He had an action-packed and deployment-filled career, and a lot of the issues that are often associated with that, from TBI to post-traumatic stress, the combination of the two. He does a great job of talking about that and the impact, so I'll leave it there. He also has an experience with the military justice system that I think few people are familiar with. He was convicted of a crime and sentenced to 3 years in a military prison, of which he served 2.5 years before getting off 6 months early for, I forget what they call it, good behavior. Pretty sure that's what it is. He was going to have to live the rest of his life as a registered sex offender and felon. Both of those things, as people can imagine, change the trajectory of your life. And it wasn't until a whistleblower inside of the JAG Corps, Judge Advocate General Corps, started to change the horizon for what Keith's life was going to look like. In the end, the charges were dropped. It was erased from his record, and he's going to be able to move forward absent having those stains on an otherwise stellar military career. There are often a lot of questions about the UCMJ and NCIS and the JAG Corps inside of the military, even from people who are in the military. And I say this every time that I talk about these particular topics. I have seen the military treat people so incredibly reasonably and with the amount of care, even exceeding the amount of care that you would want from an organization. And I have also seen them completely throw them in front of a string of buses as they get flattened, smashed along the way, and everything in between. My personal experience with NCIS and the JAG Corps has not been bad, but there are some horror stories. And the story that you are about to hear is in fact one of those. And to me, the most important thing the military can do to maintain its integrity is be 100% transparent. Unbelievable conversation. I had no idea that this man had gone through this experience, and I'm now going to shut up and let you listen to the episode for yourself. Episode number 156 with Keith Berry. Enjoy.
Okay, got the red smoke. Gun run, north or south, west of the smoke, west of the smoke. Okay, copy, west of the smoke. I'm looking at danger close now. Come on with it, baby, give it to me, I need it. You're cleared hot. Copy, cleared hot.
How long have you lived in San Diego? Because you were originally an East Coast team guy, right?
I was. That's where I spent the majority of my career. I got to the East Coast in 1998.
What BUDS class? We have to start at the beginning.
Yeah, 217.
217? You're a fucking new guy. I was 212.
Yeah. Still funny.
I was hoping you'd say 215 because then you'd have to be my Huya class, which I'm not going to take the time to explain what that is for people. It just, that would be an inside joke.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. My whole career on the East Coast, and the highs as you know, the high highs and the low lows, and eventually, moving forward with life, started dropping the ball big time, losing all SA and losing all ability to operate, and finally came to the grasp of what was going on with my head, and went to go check out.
So you're talking about when you were still in the military?
When I was still, yeah.
An SA, for people listening, is situational awareness, a very common term used, guys talking to each other just about, well, how would you describe it? You're aware of what's going on around you, essentially, and the terminology you were using it in.
Yeah, very important in anyone's life, but more so in our profession. And,
where things
as
can go
leadership,
flying and blow up around you.
And that's what broke the camel's back. Was I was acting as a troop chief for a team on the East Coast. We were 2 months from deployment again. Everybody's burned out. Everybody's tired. This is 2012 by this time.
And what number rotation are we talking about? 5, 6, 7, 8?
8.
Yeah, so many times
Right.
of, I try to describe it, the life of an enlisted SEAL, at least, well, at a conventional team, even for an officer, it's 24-month blocks, 18 months of training, 6 months minimum deployment. Come back, and it's like, hey, you guys want to do that again?
Yeah.
And then you come back, it's like, hey, guys, you want to do that again?
Yeah.
For a career.
Yeah.
It's sandpaper over your knuckles over decades.
We don't get off season.
Yeah.
We and now we've learned a lot from those experiences, from those falls and failures.
Have we, though? Have we?
Have we? I have.
I think the individuals learn from those experiences. Like you said, you realized you were having issues with your situational awareness. You recognized that something was going wrong. And this is a question that I've posed to a few team guys. Do you think they should limit combat exposure to guys in the SEAL teams? Which I think as a concept, it's easy to talk about, but I think in reality it would be hard to do.
If the question you're asking me is, would I, looking back, of course, hindsight,
you would have probably fought against that.
I would absolutely have fought against it.
So would have I.
But would a good leadership say, I don't give a shit, and taken that young man and said, after 2 deployments, you are going to get a shore duty. I didn't know what a fucking shore duty was.
Yeah.
None of us, until probably
you do a tour at Bud's.
10 or 12 years in. Yeah, until you... But you just thought team guys just kept going down range. Like you said, came back, you had your 2 weeks off vacation, which we know that was bullshit. And,
at least 5 of those days are spent turning shit in.
Exactly. Yeah. Holy shit.
Yeah. And then you got to travel probably for 1 or 2 of those days. So you're netting 5 days off after a 2-year cycle that terminates. The end of that 2-year cycle is the peak of stress, physical workload, mental workload. Yeah.
And we wonder why the divorce rate was so bad, so high.
What would you actually estimate it is? Because I don't have hard math on this. I only have like my own anecdotal experience. What would you put the number at?
Currently as is, or was back when I was operating? Because I haven't done anything since 2012.
Yeah.
Was the last
Both.
time I operated.
I got out in 13, and the last deployment I did was 10, so I'm timed out as well. Percentage-wise, what would you say divorces?
Active duty?
Mm-hmm.
In the teams?
Yep.
80%.
I was going to guess 75. What do you think about afterwards?
There's another. I think total high 90s. 90s. I think it's
easier
very
for me to
rare.
Count, yeah, it's easier for me to count the people who haven't been divorced than those who have.
100%.
Yeah.
It used to be a joke. It used to be something that guys would laugh at. Not that it's funny, but
Oh, it's all fun and games until it's fucking happening to you.
Until it's happening to you. Yeah. Which marriage are you on? Which wife are you on? And I'd see that, and I knew from the beginning, I'm not a smart man. I'm not a mathematician, but that it doesn't add up. So
there's an issue, I think, also with team guys as well. They don't always make the best choices when it comes to women.
Well, you've sat in front of the psych as I have, and I asked the same question to him. He said, "Do you have any questions for me?" And I said, "I do. What do you think about the guys in this career field?" He said, "Honestly, they're just normal guys that want to do extraordinary things, and they're high. They want to But the women that they choose to be with,
Don't marry fucking strippers is what I was trying to say in a polite way.
that should be a no-brainer.
It should be a no-brainer. I know a baker's dozen worth of guys that have done it. Against the advice, actually, of their friends at the time. They're like, nope, this is the one.
Well, and that's another thing. We always had the two platoon rule, right? Two deployment rule, where a kid had to do 2 deployments and then get okayed by the senior guys before he got engaged.
Oh, I haven't heard of this rule.
Yeah, it was. I mean, of course you can't uphold it, but it was trying to keep the new guys away from jumping into the teams, going through a workup, and then getting married before their deployments, so they had somebody to come home to.
If they were lucky, they would have somebody to come home to. I know, again, a good amount of guys who came back to figurative and literal empty houses.
Oh, yeah.
Like ice cube trays missing, shower curtain rings missing. I worked with a guy who lived on inflatable furniture for an entire workup cycle after he came back because his wife at the time left, and he legitimately came home to a house with cobwebs on the floor. Or actually, I think it was an apartment. But either way, that's fucking brutal.
And how many times you have to see that guys who are just amazing human beings, studs, warriors.
Sleeping in their cage.
Hard men sleeping in their cage. And just broken. They've just come back from that. And now they're witnessing, that's what they're subjected to. You see, and they're not going to say anything.
Yeah.
We have to, we're suffering silence, which I'll get into, we'll talk about later. But,
for sure.
But, they don't want to say that they're hurting and that they're just destroyed. They've got nothing in reserves.
There's so I got out the last day of June 2013. When did you get out?
June 2019.
Okay. So I've been out longer, obviously, and I've thought a lot about the things that make the SEAL teams what they are. And there's a lot of things that are not unique about them because, like you said, I agree with the shrink. It's very average people who have a desire to do extraordinary things. And the training pipeline, in my opinion at least, even starting at Buds and going forward, it can teach you some amazing things, but it's a double-edged sword. Being taught and reinforced an entire lifetime that quitting is a sign of weakness,
right.
Letting anybody down around you is a sign of weakness,
right.
It can get you to hold on to things far, far too long. And that guy who's sleeping in the cage, who doesn't want to say anything, who's financially destroyed, emotionally destroyed, they don't want to go ask for help because they don't want to be seen as a burden. But that's exactly what that person needs. And I've been that person. And I didn't go get help because the last thing that I wanted was to be viewed as a liability to the team instead of an asset.
To anyone.
And in my personal life, outside of the military.
To your family, to your friends.
Exactly. So yeah, it's like, nope, I'm good. But are you?
Right.
Like you go paint your face on in the morning, like, I'm fine. You're not fine.
If there's one thing that I could change, if I got to be WARCOM for the day.
King for a day?
Yeah. It would be that we drastically change our training pipeline. And that would apply for all of special, well, let's just talk about our
community. Yep.
Our community. We allegedly tried to emulate all these warrior cultures. And yet every single one of those warrior cultures was successful because of their mental strengths, their mental health, prior to the physical health. They knew that physical came secondary to mental. And we failed miserably at that.
Has it gotten better? So when I was getting out, there were psychs and shrinks that were around. There was a lot of family advocacy and resiliency programs that were being brought into the fold. But then I have no situational awareness into what has happened to the teams in the past 7 years. So you were at least more proximal to it. Have you, in your assessment, are they making more of an emphasis on that mental health? Are they trying to jam? I mean, because a lot of the times, much like I was talking about earlier, should we limit combat exposure? And you think back on your own career and you're like, oh, I would have fought you tooth and nail, but it would be the best thing that would have happened. So I think for a lot of guys, you might have to jam it down their throat, at least till it gets to the point where it's no longer has a stigma attached to it.
There's the difference between a young man and a wise man. When we get older and we recognize these things, and of course I had nothing better to do when I was a young man, but it doesn't mean it was right. I just
and
kept
it doesn't
wanting to
mean
go.
that it sets you up for success later in your life either. You could break a young man in that cycle and grind him into dust, and the military will get everything that they want out of them, and the SEAL community will get everything they want out of them, but they'll come out of that a broken human being.
Exactly. And what good is that for anyone?
Yeah, it's not.
Not just for that person, but for the person's family. And when you're talking about any member of the military, any veteran, it doesn't have to be special operations, but it's not a one number. You're talking about one veteran equals, I'd say 15, 20. If you're talking about citizens that they directly affect between their family and.
Oh, I'd say it's probably higher than that. Yeah, unless they go.
I was trying to be conservative.
Yeah, unless they go full lone survivor,
Sure.
off the res, which some of the guys do.
Yeah.
Oh yeah, for sure. I'd say they might touch 2 or 3x that, for sure. It's yeah. So did you see them making more of an emphasis though? At least, I mean, closer to, like, I was closer to 2010. You got out closer to 2020. Were they making it more of an emphasis?
From my perspective, they were playing catch up as best they could, which it's almost futile. There's just not enough psychs, and there's just not enough doctors and therapists to have enough time to treat. That I've spoken with therapists and doctors that looked at me and they said we could see each other for every week for the next 10 years, and you're not going to change. So I had to do some drastic work on my own. I couldn't rely on that.
Well, I think that's the role of the psychiatrist or psychologist or therapist, whoever you see. And I think this is a common misconception that people might have. I mean, I talk to somebody every week. I talk to them on Thursdays in the morning. And people will say, I've heard people say to me, well, that person's just they're not helping me do the work. It's like, hey, buddy, the work is actually yours to do.
100%.
They can set the plate for you. They can serve the meal, but you need to carve it up and you need to eat it. So having that support network and then being willing to actually do the work yourself, two very different things.
Yeah.
It's tough going and sitting down and talking to somebody. It sucks being confronted with the potential inadequacies that we all have and shortcomings. Because, I mean, I can tell you, I have plenty, maybe a list that's longer than the things that I'm actually good at or capable of. And I suspect most human beings are like that. I think we're imperfect out of the box. Like the baseline model has some flaws. But it sucks working on them. It's hard working on them.
It's really hard.
I get why people want to avoid it, but it's also the exact recipe for why they end up in a shitty place in their life sometimes.
Yeah.
So
those thoughts create habits, or habits create thoughts, and then create that lifestyle, and you end up in a shitty place. Happened to me. Happens to all of us.
Yeah. So how would you change the training pipeline? Have you thought about where you would interject that emphasis on mental health?
Oh, from day one.
Just in an educational perspective, you mean?
No, not just educational. It would be implemented to every training, every vignette we do.
Having that support network there.
And understanding that while the suffer in silence was effective and necessary as a student going through a selection course, that doesn't translate to being a professional soldier.
Yeah.
If your weapon system is, if the greatest weapon system you have, your brain, your mind, is not functioning 100%, then why would you take that out? We wouldn't do that with a rifle. If that thing's malfunctioning the least bit, we're not going to go out the door. We're not going to do a comms check and step off.
And if it does start to malfunction, we're taught immediate action drills. You're taught how to break it apart, strip it down, clean it out, put it back together.
Yeah. And you have people to help you do that.
Hopefully.
You have people, well, somebody's taught you how to do it.
For sure.
Yeah.
Yeah, and then it's reinforced throughout a career, actually.
You'd have to figure that out on your own.
Right. Actually, the weapons analogy is a good one. I mean, think about how many times, every workup, like we're talking about the life of 24 months, the cycle, every land warfare phase, or every range evolution where you start going through the tap, rack, bang, every time on every weapon system, immediate action drills.
Yeah.
But not on the old cranium.
Yeah. Yeah. But we didn't know what we didn't know. And that was I think the first time I had an idea that I had concussions from combat was probably 2007. And
What was the indication that you were noticing?
I had just a workup. I was an LPO of a team, and I was doing my best to hold it together. You know, that position sucks.
Yeah.
And my sister platoon, the LPO there, was fighting a Nazi divorce in custody for his children, so I was pick up on that. And then right before deployment, I kind of hit a wall, and had the chief over for a conversation in the garage over a six-pack, and I said, I can't do it. And this is right before deployment.
Ooh, that's a rough conversation to have at that time period.
And the amount of time and consideration it took me to come to that point to look my chief in the face and said, I can't do it, because I knew I wasn't ready. I didn't. Excuse me. It's not ready. I knew I wasn't functioning on all cylinders, and I mean, I was excited. Of course, we want to go.
Yeah.
That's all we want to do. And we sat there in the garage and had a couple beers, and he talked me into going. He said, you know, you'll be fine once you get down there again.
Oh,
Yeah.
fuck, I shouldn't be laughing at that, but I've heard that conversation so many times.
Yeah, and it's not his fault. I mean, he
It's kind of his fault.
He honestly probably believed that.
He might have believed it, but again, as a leader, if you have somebody who's coming to you and saying,
Yeah,
I am not physically capable,
yeah,
I'm having issues, even though I'm in a leadership position, people, especially younger junior people, are looking at me and I need to take a knee, and they say, hey,
yeah,
it'll be okay once you get downrange.
yeah,
I mean, in my experience downrange, the evolutions were equally as difficult, if not sometimes more difficult than that workup.
yeah.
So what in the fuck is giving you the indication that I'm going to be okay once the pressure cooker is actually on for real? And having said that, I understand exactly why he said that to you as well.
Right. Yeah, it's tough.
Yeah.
I thought about it a thousand times, and I said, would I have done any better as a leader? I've failed so many times in leadership.
Yeah,
You know.
as have I.
So would I have done any better? I don't know.
Yeah, so I mean, again, Monday morning
So-
quarterbacking,
Right.
hindsight being 2020.
That's right.
Looking back at it.
So, but I got downrange and fell apart. I think I held it for a month or so, and then just everything crumbled beneath me.
From a mental perspective, which
Yeah.
probably led to a physical decline as well.
Well, it was mental, and I mean, I wasn't making calls fast enough. I was making stupid calls. I was just doing shit that I should not have been doing. I was not doing enough of the stuff I should have been. Everything. I mean, I was relieved. I was taken off of the, eventually. Made a really stupid mistake. Well, made a bone mistake on target. And I'm glad nobody was hurt.
Yeah.
And that's, you know, when it comes down to that, when it comes to that point, and our profession, you know, far too often comes to that. Why does it have to come to that point? But
The catastrophic failure,
the
you mean?
catastrophic failure that God forbids, thank goodness nobody was hurt or killed. Yeah.
And I've noticed oftentimes with that catastrophic failure, it's not the person who has the deficiency that gets hurt. It's the other people that are around them
Which
that
is
suffer the consequences of that failure.
Which is our worst fear.
Yeah, for sure. I totally agree.
Yeah.
Yeah, see, that sucks because, again, you go back, the strong leader would have been, okay, this sucks, right?
Yeah.
You've been part of the cohesive unit this entire time, but you are telling me you're not physically or mentally capable of doing this. Roger that. We're going to give you the time to take a knee and re-interject you later on down the line and make that hard change. Because making that change overseas on deployment, where you either need to surge out another LPO, which stands for leading petty officer. It's basically the bridge between the junior enlisted and the senior enlisted in an operational element. It's also a mandatory career wicket for you to make chief later on. Or, you know, so you could surge somebody over there, or you have to elevate somebody into that position who hasn't gone through that workup in that position. So an additional leadership burden on them.
Yeah.
It's worse by delaying that decision
Yeah.
until you get to an environment where the consequences can be dire.
Yeah.
Yeah, I look back at my career. I think I might have a few more tick marks in the failure column than success.
You're not alone. You're not alone. And the more I think of those,
Yeah. I've done some bonehead shit on target.
It's humbling.
For sure.
It's humbling.
I've made some calls that I have regretted. It took me a long time to come to grips with those things and be comfortable to admit that and be comfortable to talk about it. And again, it's almost like mental health. I think the community would be better if we could acknowledge that.
I think it's exactly like mental health.
Yeah.
I think that's a key point too, and getting to the point of working on yourself, that you can forgive yourself for those bonehead mistakes, that you almost killed somebody.
Yeah.
Or the mistakes you did make, that you may have hurt or killed somebody else. And that's been made, unfortunately, as well by a lot of us.
Military-wide. I
Yeah.
mean, you can extrapolate that well outside
Whether or not you want to admit it, yeah.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah.
What led you to the occupation in the first place? Why did you decide to join the Navy and go the SEAL route?
That's all I ever wanted to do. I learned about it when I was 11 years old, what a frogman was. Underwater demolition team. I read a book, this dime store book.
What do you remember what it was called?
It's called Frogman.
It's fucking awesome.
I still have it.
Of course you do.
Yeah, of course.
Where are you from, to go back even farther?
Connecticut.
Okay.
Yeah, Danbury, Connecticut. Dad was a police officer. Mom was stay at home. We live about an hour and change north of New York
Okay.
City.
Any military background
boroughs.
on your mom or dad's side of the house?
Yeah, mom and dad was, the only background was mom's dad was a Congressional Medal of Honor recipient from Korea. So when I learned about him, he was a forward, prior enlisted and then became an officer.
Also known as a
As
Mustang
well.
for people. Previous
Yeah.
enlist. That's the route that I went.
Yourself as well,
Yep.
I believe.
Which
And,
is proof, in my case, that the military advancement system is flawed in
Yeah.
many ways.
Yeah. Yeah. Indeed. And he was a platoon commander for a forward air observer. For artillery, for an artillery platoon
On the Korean Peninsula?
on the and he was a forward forward.
FAC?
Yeah, they weren't air.
Probably FO, Forward Observer?
Forward observer.
Yeah, for artillery?
Artillery.
Okay.
That's what. Thank you. And Lee Hartel, first lieutenant. They were there in the peninsula. They were on the North Korean side of the line, doing what they're doing,
Yeah.
and eventually got overrun. And he ordered his platoon to return to the last rally point, and held his position and kept drawing enemy fire. And then once they got to his position, he called a strike on his own position.
Did he survive it?
No.
Okay.
He was no.
The valorous citations from World War I, World War II, and the Korean War are, they give me goosebumps when you read those things.
Very few, if any of them, ever survived.
That's
they're
what I
all
was asking. Yeah,
posthumous.
almost all
in the
Medals of
way.
Honor in those wars were posthumous. But there are stories of people in trenches fighting off grenade attacks with shovels.
Yeah.
Like, what the fuck, man?
Yeah.
Like, literally swinging a shovel like a baseball bat and hitting grenades back at North Korean troops.
Just, yeah.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know. I have my own issues with the current modern day military award system. I think it's far too tied to rank.
Probably share that with you.
Yeah, so it's tied to rank, and it's interesting to see the awards. And I'm not putting a value judgment on anybody's award, but what I will say is, if you compare a BV from Bronze Star with Valor from Vietnam to the Korean War to modern day, there is a difference.
Yes.
And I think that should be noted. And I think it should be noted and looked at when people of a certain rank seem to achieve a certain level of award, because they have to get that to make their next wicket. So once those two systems are tied, they become intrinsically flawed.
Very strong, valid point that needs to be discussed. The general populace will never understand that if it's not eliminated.
Yeah, the military awards is one that I don't know if the general public will ever understand, because it takes a few years to get it inside of the military anyway.
Yeah.
And it sucks because I see people who are really, really playing it to their advantage as much as possible.
Oh, you can definitely. Yeah.
Bronze, actually, a Bronze Star is a good example. most people don't realize that's the highest military award you can get for valorous or meritorious service. And there is a huge difference between the two of those things. So in the Navy, the V, the Combat Distinguishing Device, if you get a BV or a Bronze Star with V, your citation is going to begin for heroic achievement. But you can also get a Bronze Star for meritorious achievement. And I know people who have gotten those for administrative work. And I'm not trying to degrade their effort at all, but I also know of people who will take a BS, which is known as a Bronze Star without V, and they will try to, their narrative will become anything other than what they actually got the award for. And the people who don't know any better, they don't know any better. And it's a problem.
Right.
It is a problem, in my opinion, for sure.
Yeah, 100%.
Yeah, and I don't know how to solve that one.
Well, guys were saving lives back in, as you said, in World War II, and they were getting
a letter of appreciation on a fucking napkin.
Navy Achievement medals.
Dude, there's some NAMs from Vietnam for charging fucking machine gun nests. I'm like, that would be a minimum Navy Cross in this day and age, probably a goddamn Medal of Honor.
Kids get that for keeping the Geedunk stocked right now.
Yeah, Geedunk is basically the snack drawer for people listening.
Yeah.
Yeah. No, I've often... I think a lot about my time in the service, having been out now for almost 7 years, and I think about the award system because I hear people talking about it, and I don't know the best way to explain it to them, but I do think it is broken because about halfway through my career, I saw that realization of, oh, you're in an LPO slot. You're definitely going to get this award because you need this to look good on your Chiefs package. Yeah. So it was tied to rank, not personal actions. I've seen Silver Stars awarded to people for multiple, they combined multiple operations and multiple actions, which actually is against the guidance of a Silver Star. It should be for one valorous action, not the combination of the two, and specifically not for your fucking rank.
Right.
And it cheapens what those things actually mean. And I think the cart is so far out of the horse on that topic that I don't think it can be put back in.
Well said. Agreed.
Yeah. Did you find that Frogman book on your own?
I did. I don't know how.
I was going to say, did somebody say to you, like, you one day they're like, UDT, and you went and found it? Or did you, like, you're talking like randomly going through the library and you're like,
no,
Frogman.
It wasn't a library. I think it was, it's crazy. Maybe I made this shit up. It's, I kind of vividly recollect a dime store, just a old.
Was it like a comic book?
No, I'm looking forward to sharing it with you sometime.
Now I'm going to look this thing up for sure.
A little paper thin.
Okay.
And
probably pictures of UDT dudes?
Nope.
Nothing?
No pictures. Yeah.
I would have thrown that book away if I was you, but that's me. I'm looking pictures first. If they're not appealing, I'm not reading that thing.
Yeah, I had no idea. Well, at that point, I had no idea. Richard Mercinko hadn't come out and told everybody what SEALs were yet.
Yeah.
So I just thought that playing with blowing shit up underwater, you're gonna. I grew up swimming, in Connecticut, so it was dirty lakes and stuff like that, but neighbor's pool. But I enjoyed swimming. I enjoyed, as a teenager, I enjoyed being a lifeguard and a Boy Scout and a volunteer firefighter. I ended up being a paramedic, that kind of thing. So that service, with the background of my grandfather and my family, everyone in my family service oriented. But learning of that, I'm like swimming underwater with explosives and blowing shit up. Yeah.
Haversack, what?
Yeah.
Limpet, what?
Yeah.
Yeah. Bangalore torpedo, yes, please.
Yeah. Welcome Marines.
Yeah, for sure. Oh, that's right. I forgot they used to put the signs up.
Yeah.
Yes, I forgot about that. So that one book got you, though. It hooked you and it lit the spark?
And that lit the spark. And then, of course, Richard Mercinko's
Rogue Warrior.
Rogue Warrior. Once I became a teenager, I got a hold of that.
Yep.
And I didn't know, I hadn't learned, but once I discovered the evolution of frogmen, then I was all in. And that was at a young age. So the spark was lit about 11.
Same for me. It was interesting when you said that. I was like, you know what? I'm not going to say anything because I bet your story is very similar to mine. And people ask me to be on their podcast.
Our poor mothers.
Oh, I know.
Our poor mothers.
I know. And of course, I was talking about it at like the age of 11, 12, and 13. I had the SEAL flag up in my room.
Yeah.
The Charlie Sheen movie was on heavy rotation. handlebar mustaches and MP5 SDs with Nomex flight suits, which I actually got to play around with a little bit pre 9/11.
Sure, yeah, I remember that.
One of the most uncomfortable outfits ever, designed to be itchy.
I remember doing VBSS with those.
For sure. Visit, board, search, and seizure for those of you trying to figure out what the hell military acronyms are.
Yeah.
But so I'll do podcasts and people will ask me, when did you know you wanted to be a SEAL? I'll tell them 11. And for me, it started with a conversation with my dad because he was on the first squadron of Mark I patrol boats in Vietnam.
Wow.
Yeah, and so as you know, we were using Mark Vs at least in my day. Who knows what they're on right now? Probably Mark 6 or 7, or I'm sure that's in the pipeline.
Yeah.
But so he wasn't a SEAL, but he was the insertion extraction platform.
Fantastic.
And told me a little bit about it, and just his description of kind of what they did. I was like, huh. Got a hold of Men with Green Faces.
Mm-hmm.
Got a hold of the Rogue Warrior series. I found it in the nonfiction section. Didn't realize somebody had put it there by accident. And yeah, the hook was in it for me too. And I have no great explanation for why it had that draw. And I tell people that it's abnormal to hear of an 11-year-old saying that, but you get into the SEAL community and you're surrounded by people. Mm-hmm. Just like you said it, it's like it's the most common narrative in the SEAL team. It's like, nope, I knew from a young age. People are like, how did you know? I'm like, I have no idea, but I knew.
Yeah. and then that set forth. I mean, I wasn't a great student in school because I knew all I was going to do was join the military. So I did whatever I had to do to get physically fit and strong. Again, I should have been focused on the mental, but we're kids. Come on.
Yeah.
Poor mom.
My mom came from an Army brat family. Both mom and dad served in the Army.
Yeah.
Her sister actually was a Navy chaplain. I remember, I think I was 12 or 13, and for Christmas she got me a trident. I was like, what?
Wow.
Yeah.
That's legit.
It was legit. And I remember leaving it in like the plastic for a long time. I'm like, I don't know if I'm allowed to touch this. And then eventually I opened it up and probably lost the thing. But it was the first time I actually saw one in person. I was like, holy shit.
Yeah.
Game on. I did the same thing. I didn't pay much attention in school.
Yeah.
My friends were studying for their SATs and doing college applications. And in hindsight, a terrible plan to not have a backup plan. I had no idea.
I had zero backup plan.
I didn't know either. But, here's the thing. I wasn't worried about quitting in buds, but I didn't know. I went back as an instructor in 2006 through 2008 when I got commissioned. I didn't know the injury rate.
Right.
I had not have any idea.
Right.
I didn't know about the role stuff, the performance or injury side of the house. And then I went back as an instructor and I was thinking about my plan. I was like, ooh, not great idea.
Right there with you.
Yeah, watching people fall off like the Dirty Name, break their leg, or the spider wall, or the slide for life. And sitting there as an instructor as you can feel their impact when they're getting carted off. It's like, ooh, and you're an awesome guy, but your pelvis doesn't work anymore, so not going to work out for you. Mm-hmm. Yeah, it was a rough one.
Thanks for coming out.
Yeah, for sure. So how was your... How soon after high school did you pipeline in?
I took a year. I actually, I knew I was going to make a career of it. So
interesting. I did not.
I had a plan, and the plan said I was going to take a year, and I was going to get it out of my system, get the partying out of my system. And
so you were wise for your age.
I've been accused of a lot,
but not being wise.
Never, not that. But I did. I wanted to. I lived in a house on a lake with all musicians. I didn't play a lick. I had no. I still don't have any musical ability, but on the lake with a bunch of musicians. We had keggers every weekend. I hitchhiked a little bit on the East Coast. I had a ball.
Yeah.
And then after a year, I said, "Okay, thanks, guys. I enjoyed myself. I'm gonna go enlist." And I stuck to it. My friends were, friends I grew up with that had known me my entire youth all through high school. They were generally concerned because I was having so much fun. But then it was time to go. After a year, that was it. And then I enlisted and went to boot camp. I actually found out, of course, went to boot camp with the expectation I was going to go to SEAL teams. That's the only reason I was going to join the military.
They needed you. I don't know if you know this, everybody, but I'm kind of a big deal, and the SEAL teams need me.
Yeah. I hear the call.
Yeah. And they're calling me.
Got there, and of course you pick during...
You got to pick your rate.
got to pick your rate. And
did you take the screener before?
No, I took it at boot camp.
No, I mean before you picked your rate. Because I think so.
No, and there was the problem.
Oh,
There was
shit.
the problem because
You could have picked a rate that would have pipelined you out of the SEAL community.
well, I was good enough to ask him what the SEAL criteria was, what the pipeline required, and so they gave me a list of possible jobs. They said, what do you want to do in the Navy? I said, I want to be a SEAL. The person looks at me and laughs. Like,
Yeah, never heard that one before.
Get that a lot. So, but you still need a job, son.
So for when you don't make it through, let's just go ahead and pick the job that you want to do, which is actually,
Right.
on the Navy side of the house, a good call,
Sure.
given the attrition rate.
Yeah, of course. And this was back in 1994.
Yeah.
So they read off the list and they read past corpsman. I asked what that was. They said it was a medic. You can do things with the Navy, but you can also go with the Marines and so on and so forth. And you're a medic. It's kind of breaking it down, simplifying it, especially when you start talking about being with the Marines or being with SEAL teams. But I said that sounds good because I enjoyed that kind of thing. And so double-edged sword. I get to boot camp, and my A school is corpsman. And as I'm screening, I screened, did well, went up to the chief. Now here's a big, little hairy-chested frogman.
Yeah.
Big
Probably
guy.
handlebar mustache.
Handlebar mustache, rocks. I mean, he looked like a poster child.
Chiseled out of like marble, looking like Adonis.
It's probably Instructor Griffin.
He probably was.
Yeah.
That guy has one of the most high-quality dick brooms I've ever seen. Just 3 sides of that thing are getting cleaned on the way in. I can't help myself, as you can tell. But it's what it is.
It is.
Yeah.
It's a gift. So he said, good job. You passed. And what's your A school? I said, corpsman. He looks at me. He's like, you're not going.
Ooh.
Yeah. My heart stopped. And I said, what the fuck are you talking about, Chief? He goes, it's closed for corpsmen.
Oh, they had too many, didn't they?
They had too many at the time. And back then they couldn't.
I've heard of this happening.
They couldn't manage. So it was either ebb and flow. And at the time, I just happened to have been came in the time that there was too many. So he's like, you're fucked. You're not going. Simple. So I said, what the fuck? I don't want to be in the Navy. What do I do? He said, if I were you, I'd go with the Marines for a couple of years, get some experience, and do it again. So that's exactly what I did. And looking back, of course, I wouldn't have changed a thing. It was a phenomenal opportunity. I love working with Marines. I always have. I always will.
They're some of the most amazing people that I've ever met. Like there's, of course, the inter-service rivalry and the jabs and the jibs at each other, but you want to talk about people who are solid performers on target in pressure cooker situations. Absolutely. I'll take the Marine Corps every day of the week.
Like you said, it's a sibling rivalry pretty much.
It is.
Yeah.
Like, and
phenomenal.
There's shit talking that occurs on target.
It's beautiful.
For sure.
It's beautiful.
Yeah, but you're talking toes on the line together, shoulder to shoulder, zero issues.
That's right.
Yeah.
In fact, there were several occasions where, as a corpsman with Marines, you'd have somebody try to step up to me. I'm not a big guy, I never was. But as a doc, as a corpsman with Marines, they try to instigate some sort of aggression towards me.
It's not going to go well.
Oh, poor bastards.
Your big brothers are going to step in.
I couldn't even get to him fast enough. I couldn't stand up before 3 sergeants are just tearing this poor kid apart.
Yeah.
Just tearing. It's vicious.
Some lessons are best learned by experiencing them.
Oh, my God.
Pretty sure that person didn't lip off as much for the rest of their life.
No. Yeah.
So what does that look like going Navy boot camp? It's a FMF corpsman, right?
That's right.
What is this? Fleet
Marine Force.
Fleet Marine Force corpsman.
Yeah.
So after boot camp, where did you go? How did you end up working with the Marines, and what did you do with them?
Geiger. I was Camp Geiger Tigers. That's where it's what they do is they take Fleet Marine Force. You go Fleet Marine Service School, FMSS, at Camp Geiger, North Carolina, part of the Lejeune.
Okay.
And it's kind of condensed, again, a condensed boot camp of all they're going to do is teach you how to operate within the Marine Corps, but you're not a Marine. Your job is to be doc.
Yeah.
But you'll hump, you'll fire weapons, you'll understand the structure and the rank and the unit structure and basic tactics of the Marine Corps.
That's actually really smart that they do that, because obviously Navy boot camp is not going to prepare you for any of that. Navy boot camp.
What does Navy boot camp prepare you for?
Well, we're
folding clothes.
I mean, you and I are not a good example of what Navy boot camp prepares you for, because, I mean, shit, how many SEALs do you think there are? 2,000?
Yeah.
There's a couple 100,000 people in the Navy. It's like less than 1% of people are going to go down that pipeline.
Right.
The boot camp is for the people who are going to be haze gray and underway, largely. So I'd have to actually ask one of them whether or not
found my Blue Jacket manual recently.
The BJM?
I think that's the first time I think I actually opened it. I was flipping through it.
I can support that.
Yeah.
I can support that for sure. Only time I would have maybe looked through that is before I was taking like the OSC test.
Right.
Before we had our own rate, and I was trying to figure out what in the fuck I could study to actually get an answer correct.
Yeah.
Because it certainly wasn't going to be radar scope operator stuff. So what after those schools, where'd they send you?
After those schools, they sent me to New River Air Station, again, still in North Carolina. And then had a great time there, worked with some great Marines, fell out of my first helicopter. Good times.
Yeah, how high were you?
It was like 30 feet.
It can leave a mark depending if you're over water or shale.
Yeah. We weren't. We were on the tarmac. It's fine.
Ooh, that's not fine, but I mean, survivable. It's not fine, but it's survivable.
But I had a great time with those guys. And then I ended up going to Oki for a year, Okinawa, working with some wonderful guys there.
What years were you in Okinawa?
96, 97.
Okay. Were you on Kadena?
No, I wasn't on Kadena. I'm familiar with it.
Yeah, because that's where
Kadena was
Kadena is an Air Force
base.
base. That's where I went on my first pre-9/11 deployment. Was Kadena Air Force Base in '98.
Yeah, no, I was on Schwab.
Okay, which wasn't too far. I think that was a 20-minute drive or something like that.
Yeah, it was north.
Okay.
Yeah, it was a good time. Good people.
And then how did you?
Good hurricane typhoon parties.
Oh, for sure, dude. You want to talk about the power of Mother Nature? I was remembering in those barracks. I'm like, these walls are like really, really, really thick, and the roof is really thick too. And I wonder why. And then a typhoon.
Yeah.
Like, yes, I understand now. I can just shelter in place.
Yeah. With dozens of Marines and alcohol packed.
What could go wrong?
What could go wrong? It's going to be fine.
Well, probably. In the aggregate, it'll be fine.
Doc's going to be busy doing barracks triage.
Which is known as IVs.
Yeah.
Hangover IVs is, I think, how that is actually written down.
And suturing.
Yeah. So after that deployment, how did you get back on track into the SEAL pipeline?
That's actually a great story. One of the docs that I practiced under as a corpsman, great. He was a dive medical officer. He was, at the time, the dive medical officer for the recon for 5th Force, I believe, at the time. And I couldn't find a Navy diver to give me the screening test for buds, because you have to, the way it's written out, you have to have a Navy diver. It doesn't have to be a SEAL. They just have to be dive qualified.
Yep.
And the doc I happened to work for, he said, well, hello, I'm a dive medical officer. I'm dive qualified. He goes, find out if I can give it to you. If I can, then I'll give it to you. So that was the physical screening aspect. All you had to do was have a diver sign off on that, give it to you. And found out the order for it and wrote it down for him, or got him a copy of it, put it in front of his desk. He said, all right, be ready tomorrow morning.
Sweet.
And we went out, and he gave no quarter. You remember the rock. I mean, that's all it is. It's solid rock. Thankfully, he didn't put me in soft sand. But
yeah.
But we knocked it out, and then put that as part of my package. He helped me submit the package, which certainly didn't have to do. We became good friends after that, actually, and got orders. He had left the island before me, and I'd say maybe about 6 months, and happened to be on Coronado when I got orders. He happened to have been, I think he was one of the docs for one of the teams, if I can recall. And he said, look me up when you get out there. And I did. I called him up. I said, sir, do you remember? He's like, yeah, Dick, I remember you. And he goes, I'll pick you up at the airport. And
Sweet.
yeah, so it was awesome. He picked me up and we became good friends. I was there when he proposed to his then girlfriend, now wife, and was at his wedding, and I'm best godfather to his firstborn.
That's awesome.
Yeah. It's
So
phenomenal.
no issues being attached to the Marine, getting your paperwork in, and then probably got a message saying, hey, or your next set of orders were 2 buds, I would assume?
It was.
Do you start with 217?
No, I started 215. No, I started 213.
See, this is what I didn't know about when I went in. I didn't know
Yep.
about all this performance role and medical role stuff. What
Yep.
happened?
I got double roll. Why did I get double roll twice? So first one, I have no idea. I'll have to look that up. I'll have to figure that out. The first one was I broke my foot during Hell Week, which it was during Hell Week, so, and it's a foot, so that's fine. It was a stress fracture like everybody else had.
Probably got issued a couple 800 milligram Motrin and told to continue.
And it was, thank goodness, I mean, they were nice enough to keep us in the water and, keep the swelling down. So we had no issues.
For sure.
As
I'm
long
sure
as
that's
you-
exactly why they had us in the water,
Yeah,
too. It was
they
for
were very-
swelling reduction.
Very considerate.
Yeah.
The
So you made it
swelling
through
down.
Hell Week with a stress fracture in your foot, which I'm
Yeah.
sure felt great.
Yeah. So,
And
but
then
then
probably rolled in the medical check afterwards.
But then I rolled afterwards because I couldn't keep up on the walk week just to chow.
Yeah.
They had to put me on crutches. But I think it fully snapped. It actually felt better once it snapped. It was
Really?
It was maybe Wednesday night. It was at the. It was when was it Wednesday night or Thursday night? I don't know. It was after Lions Lope. We were running around in the field over across the street.
Yep, on NAB Coronado.
On NAB Coronado.
Yep.
We had done.
Were you
know,
guys doing the treasure hunt?
the treasure hunt
Yeah.
and all that. But they had us running races up some field, and
Probably over at Turner Field.
yeah. I remember turning and pivoting on it and felt it, and I think it felt better once it snapped. And then once doing the X-ray, when we had to go, we had to check out. You can see the
Yeah.
clean break. So,
It's amazing. And again, I did not know
fourth
this.
metatarsal.
Yeah, I did not know this until I went back as an instructor. There are some hard motherfuckers on the face of this planet. I'm not one of them,
Nor am I.
but I've watched students who would go through and they're like, at the end of Hell Week, you'd be like, are you just going to put out or just going to sit here and be a pussy?
Mm-hmm.
And at the end of Hell Week, you're like, you have like 8 breaks in your legs
And
you've been running on these. You, sir, deserve some time off.
and the guy who's got C6 vertebrae, his neck broke, and does the entire thing.
Yeah.
I think that was a couple classes. That's probably around your time.
Yeah, there was, and again, as a student, you never saw that because they would get detached and you'd be like, hey, where'd Bob go? I don't know. And moving on.
Yep.
As an instructor, you'd see the student hobbling around like, oh, you have a neck collar on. What's going on? Oh, nothing. They're just going to fuse my neck.
Yeah.
So you've been running around with a boat on your head for the last 4 days and
Yeah.
you said nothing.
Yeah.
You, sir, are a harder man than I am.
Yeah.
Yeah, pretty impressive.
Amazing.
Yeah. So you got rolled, double roll. So if you started 213, that puts you in 215.
Mm-hmm.
You probably picked up a post-Hell Week next class in first phase.
Yep.
And then what was your second roll for?
I can't recall.
You do have some post-concussive syndromes.
We got some good imagery if you want to post that sometime. I'm sure you
Of your
do
brain?
too. Yeah.
I'll be honest with you. I'm terrified to have my brain imaged, and I have ferrous metal in my body, so I'm not a candidate for a CAT scan.
Okay.
Or I'm sorry, for an MRI.
For an MRI.
So when they did they were doing my disability, they had to do it was an estimate based off my operational history.
Mm-hmm.
But concussions, concussive blast, TBI, for sure. The severity of it, unknown.
I will say that when they put the images up on the screen and the neurologist goes over it and you see it, that makes a lot of sense. You're like,
It helps you connect the dots.
It helps you connect the dots. And you're like, I verbally said, thank God when I saw it for the first time.
Because
you're
it
like,
gave you like an explanation.
yeah, exactly. You're not crazy. You're not broken. You're injured.
Yeah.
You just have an injury just like everything else. And with time and therapy and
Yeah.
whatever else is necessary, mostly time, rest. You're gonna be, you can get over those injuries. You can acclimate, but
you can at least mitigate.
Mitigate.
I don't know. I mean, do they even know if you can repair your brain?
Oh,
I heard once that they know more about the surface of the moon than they do about the human brain.
that wouldn't surprise me.
Yeah, that there's more
It's so
unknown than known
fascinating.
when it comes to the human brain.
It's so fascinating.
Yeah.
It really is.
I'll be honest with you, the head injury stuff, the concussive blasts, I have my concerns about what the tail end of life will look like for me.
Wondering.
They put me through NICO, and for people listening, that's the National Intrepid Center of Excellence. It's attached. The one I went to is attached to Walter Reed, and it's a 30-day, all-inclusive, the best medical treatment I've ever received. And there was a battery of tests. A lot of them are cognitive. They give you everything from IQ tests to memory tests. If there's a test associated with it, whether it be blood, sleep, they put a sleep study on me.
Sleep study.
All of that stuff. And, the test for the cognitive stuff, it came out okay. And it was really hard for me to explain to them in terms that I felt got the point across that I can feel a difference in myself. So their spreadsheet might say my brain is still firing at a level that is acceptable for performance. But I'm sitting there telling them, listen, I'm not the same person. My brain is slower. There are things that don't work as well in my brain that used to, and I don't know how to get this. I don't know what tests I need to take for it to have that show up. And I think one of the biggest issues is I didn't have a baseline for when I went in.
Right.
So absent a baseline, they're like, oh, you're doing okay on these tests. And by the test, I'm clicking a mouse and looking at a computer screen, which is not where I feel the biggest cognitive issues.
And what's the parameters for okay? What are those standards that you're looking at?
Yeah.
I promise they're not special operations.
Yeah.
They're not at the level where the multitasking, critical thinking of people in a high
consequence. Yeah, I wonder what the criteria would be for okay.
So I felt that same way. And during cognitive, they said, well, you did fine. You did okay. Well,
it's I did fine on your test, but I'm struggling with shit throughout my normal everyday life that your test isn't testing for.
Yeah.
It was a very tough one.
Yeah.
And I actually went back and I didn't argue with them, but I wanted to talk to them about it because I was like, listen.
No, right. They're phenomenal.
Yeah. And they did a narrative summary, and I was like, listen, your narrative summary is based off of just the results that came off of this battery of tests that I did. Yeah. But I'm telling you, it is not indicative of the struggles that I have in my everyday life. Yeah. It was very challenging because and then it leads to questioning yourself. I'm like, well, this test says I'm okay, but I don't feel okay.
Right.
And then I'm like, okay, well, what does it look like 10 years from now, 20 years from now, 30 years from now? So I have some concerns for the tail end of life.
Well,
when it comes to that level of performance, cognitive-wise,
I can appreciate those concerns, and the fact that you have it is enlightening enough that you get to start to work on things that you can mitigate. You can.
Yeah.
We did very well physically, taking well.
Some of us more than others.
We could argue that too, physically, but mentally, now I'm age 46 and I'm learning how to breathe. It's amazing. I'm learning all new. I'm learning how to sleep. I'm learning how to breathe. All these things that we should have been doing pretty well our whole lives, but of course we didn't.
Yeah, and knowing that now, I hope that they are interjecting that into the pipeline for the younger guys.
I certainly hope so.
Yeah, the advancements in technology, whether it be the human,
it's only going to benefit.
Yeah.
It's only going to create better people.
Agreed. And I think
or don't. And
suffer the consequences. Yeah,
we're seeing that now.
Yeah, I was having that who was I talking to?
God,
I forget who I was talking to. We were talking about the number of people that we know who get out and just disappear into the bottle, and they spiral in absent the support system of the people who are there next to them.
Mm-hmm.
And it's far too many. And I think that stuff, and I get it. Yeah, I get it too. And I don't know how to stop it.
Right.
I don't know what to do.
Yeah.
But I do believe, and I don't have any data to support this, that a large portion of that for a lot of people is directly related to the occupation that they dedicated their formative years of their life to.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, you're doing what you can right now.
Yeah, I don't know how much of an impact it has, but at least I'm trying to explore it for myself. And I think having a conversation, if it sparks other conversations, that's at least a good first step. I mean, I can't solve the problem myself, obviously.
Right. Absolutely.
Hence, smarter people than me, which is, a spoiler alert, everybody that I come in contact with. So that makes it easy. Most of the time, I just listen to them. But
Present company excluded.
I don't know. We haven't spent that much time together. You might find out that I'm actually a functioning idiot. So you graduate 2017, so that puts you probably you graduated in 97, I'm going to guess, or early 98? Had to have been, because 212, 6 classes per year. Yeah.
June 98.
Okay, that makes sense.
Yeah.
What'd you put down on your dream sheet in third phase for the teams you wanted to go to?
East Coast.
Did you?
Yeah.
I put 248 and got 5.
What did I put?
And so I'll explain. In third phase, so SEAL training is broken up first, second, and third.
I can't recall the number of that.
First is largely physical conditioning, where most of the attrition happens. Second is diving, closed circuit, and open. And if you pass the pool comp test wicket, you got a very high chance of actually making it to the community. Third phase is San Clemente Island, largely land warfare, basics of demo. And I think it was in second phase, you fill out your dream sheet.
Yeah.
There's a form, and it says, where do you want to go, team-wise? I was born on the West Coast. I was like, you know what? Let's get some East Coast time. 2, 4, and 8. Even number teams, East Coast. Odd numbers are West. And I got my first introduction to the needs of the Navy. We were out on San Clemente Island, and they broke us up into little individual groups, and they came along with like this group. And of course, we were doing like burpees or something.
Yeah.
This group is like team 2, and this group is team 4. They came up to mine. This group is team 5. And I was like, fuck, man. I put 2, 4, and 8 on there. I'm like, oh. It's more of a fantasy than an actual dream sheet. It's actually exactly what it is. It's a dream, a pipe dream.
That's it.
Because I'm going to go where the Navy needs me to go.
That's quite the first lesson.
Yeah. So that's actually cool that you put East Coast and got East Coast.
Yeah. I don't think there was... I think my entire class went to East Coast.
I've heard of that. Mine was actually relatively split, pretty much down the middle.
Yeah.
Smattering to 1, 3, and 5, and a smattering to 2, 4, and 8. And no SDV guys in my class.
Right. Now, I had the joy of going to Fort Bragg for the medical training prior to checking in.
18 Delta?
18 Delta. So that was 6 months. So
You, sir, are
my
privileged.
Classmates. What a joy. That was, we could talk a lot about that.
I bet you the training you got there was awesome, though.
The medical training was phenomenal.
Yeah. 18 Delta Corpsman, if you're leaking hydraulic fluid, I want one of those guys or a fucking PJ on me.
Yeah. Stop the bleeding, keep them breathing, get them back to bright lights and cold steel.
Yeah.
We can do that. We can definitely do that. Under extreme situations, as you know. No oxygen, no other medical capabilities, no light.
Yeah. It's an interesting thing to watch somebody give an IV under nods. Or just by feel. I watched a PJ one time on a guy who had low blood pressure, was leaking hydraulic fluid, under nods on a helicopter, just sitting there, just feeling his arm, got it on the first stick.
Yeah.
If he had given me that needle, that man would have bled out. Because I would have gotten everything. I would have definitely gotten the vein and gone straight through it and then sliced the thing open and just been like jabbing him. I couldn't believe it. I was sitting there watching, and it was one of the most impressive things that I've ever seen.
Operator feels no pain. He just...
I don't even remember if the guy was in and out of consciousness.
Yeah.
But the fact that he was able to get an IV on the first stick under those conditions, unbelievable. And I think he probably had gloves on too. It's like, God, come on.
Wow. Yeah. Everybody worked. That was one of the things I really enjoyed in both working with the Army, the Marine, of course, the SEALs I worked with, just the caliber of guys. I mean, we can get into that later too, and that's open and all. But just remarkable human beings, especially under stress, under pressure, which is all that really matters. Everybody can be great on a warm, sunny day.
Yeah.
and be a nice person. But when bad things happen and things are stressful, then
I think it's a testament to the pipeline and the fact that the curriculum does the job well.
Yeah.
I mean, you look back and having gone there and applied the curriculum to students for 18 months, it's really about pushing people to those moments where they're stressful and they're miserable.
Yeah.
And then asking them to do something critical or just asking them to think beyond themselves and then sit back and watch
Right.
and see what they do.
Right.
I definitely believe it's a testament to that training pipeline. And I have heard, I have no issue. People ask me all the time, like, well, what about a woman being a SEAL? And my thing is, as long as no standards are changed, I don't care.
Bottom line.
Could give two shits.
I don't care.
Yeah. High five, fist bump, let's go rock and roll.
Yeah.
But if you modify those standards, I have a massive problem with it because, like I just said, I believe the performance and what the guys are able to do is directly related to that crucible and the training pipeline, which is driven by the demands of the real world.
Couldn't agree more.
Yeah. So as long as they don't modify that stuff.
Every
could care
activity
less.
that we have in that training pipeline is because it's been done
It's
in
purpose-driven.
combat. It's purpose-driven.
Yeah.
That's not just pulled out of our asses.
Yeah.
Why we're doing this evolution, why we're doing that evolution. Right.
For sure. So Bud's graduation, did you hit Benning on the way?
Oh, yes.
So
I almost
did I.
forgot. What a joy.
How could you forget Sergeant Airborne? So now the current SEAL pipeline.
What was that? Was it 3 weeks, 2 weeks?
It was at least 3.
It was about 3 days of work packed into 3 weeks.
I remember learning
we could've-
PLFs for 5 days on the sawdust huge. I think they might have called them the parade grounds, but that huge.
There's no parade.
Yeah, that huge covered area where you'd go forward, backwards, left,
That's
right,
right.
45 forwards, 45 left. Yeah, all to get 5 static line
5
jumps
static
in.
line jumps.
I'm pretty sure it was 3 weeks. Yeah.
I believe you're right.
So Benning for static line, I had the same experience.
Well spent taxpayers' money right there.
Now out at Otay, they're getting static line and free fall, basically, 20 miles from where you go through the SEAL pipeline.
I totally missed the deal on that. Yeah,
We did by a long shot.
we missed it, and then we don't send SEALs. Of course, they're not 18 Deltas anymore either, though. But we don't send new guys to brag for our 18 Delta. For
What are
medical
they
training.
now? SOCMs?
SOC,
Something like that?
Special Operation Combat Medic.
Yeah.
And it's taught independently. I'm not Memphis. No,
Okay.
I don't know where the facility doesn't matter.
I had heard about that, but I had also forgotten that was the case. I was never a corpsman, so I never followed the pipeline.
So instead of 18 Delta does give you the scope of practice. There's no license because you're working under a surgeon's license, whatever group surgeon you're assigned to. But it does give you the training, the capability to administer medications, to order medications, administer medications, to include anesthesia, to include narcotics.
Mm-hmm.
It does give you the capability to do, I said anesthesia, surgery, after a lot of patient care that they deemed wasn't necessary or that we could get PJs for.
They stripped that out.
They stripped that out, and for the SOCM course that they're currently doing, it's a medic on steroids. It's
How long is the course?
again stop the bleeding, keep them breathing.
Yeah. Because 18 Delta was 6, right? 6 months?
18 Delta was a year. It was broken up for us because the community did not want us away, which I don't blame, thank God.
For a year.
For a year at the conception of the initiative, at the genesis of our career in special.
Yeah, straight out of Bud's pipeline.
Right out of Bud's pipeline, and then going with the Army for a year. So they said do 6 months. You come, you do 2 platoons, and then you go back for the second portion, which was more advanced, and which the second portion, while it was necessary or it was good to have, that was more of the clinical. So that was a lot of the stuff that
More like the patient care type stuff?
Exactly.
Okay.
So the course, I understand the course that they run now is pretty much like the first 6 months that we got.
Okay.
The initial 6 months. Hey, if you're good enough to deploy for 2 platoons with that, then why don't we just,
sustain life, get them to a higher level of care.
Exactly.
That makes sense.
Yeah.
So Benning, Bragg, and then where was your first team?
Teammate on the East Coast.
Yep.
Yep.
Where are they on? Little Creek, right?
Little Creek.
Yep.
And where were we? I think I was a Yukon platoon. Yeah. Yeah, I was a Yukon platoon. Yeah.
Pre 9/11 still? Probably getting to like 99, 2000 at this point.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. 99. My first stop, first place we went was Kosovo. And my first stop was we were chasing Pifwick, persons indicted for war crimes.
Yep.
They were they had been put on that list
The Bosnia, Serbia.
by NATO. Yep. And so very anticlimactic. We worked a guy for, here I was in my first platoon and going after bad guys and chasing them, and it was.
Hey, at least you were going after bad guys.
Yeah.
My first platoon was to Japan. My second one was to Guam.
Yeah.
The only bad guys we were chasing was Jose Cuervo. We chased that fucker everywhere.
Everywhere. Still.
Sometimes we just brought him with us.
Yeah. God. That's a whole nother thing we're going to talk about.
What, booze?
Holy shit.
It's
Alcohol, it's a competitive sport.
Yeah, and you know what?
And then we wonder why we go to it when.
Or you wonder why guys have issues with it later on.
That's what I was going, yeah.
I mean, I remember when I first got in, people would joke like, oh, you're not going to make chief until you get a couple DUIs. And now a DUI is an ejection seat out of the SEAL community.
No questions asked.
Yeah. It was an interesting culture for sure. And I tell you what.
I remember, yeah.
If that's a culture you grow up into, that's a tough one to get its hooks out of you later in life.
Correct.
Yeah. That's, I hope that they are doing better with that as well. I mean, I could even say in 2013 that they at least were at a doctrinal level trying to change the narrative, but there was still at an operational level a lot of the same drinking mentality and culture. There was a little bit of a divergence between what was being said and what was being done.
Yeah.
So,
I understand that.
So Kosovo, what was after that? You did a platoon with teammate, and then where to go for you?
Stuck with the teammate for a little bit. Did a couple platoons with them, and then
Where were you when 9/11 kicked off?
I was at sniper school.
That's what I'm talking about.
Yeah.
Atterbury?
Yeah. Yeah. Of course, like everyone else, you'll never forget it.
Yeah.
But we were stalking. We were in the field.
You were on a stalk.
We were on a stalk.
Fuck.
I can't make this shit up.
Yeah.
I mean, I could. I guess they make Star Wars. They made up, but
This is true.
they make. I'm not creative enough to make shit up like that, though. But yeah, on a stalk, the safety recall goes off. That horn. Everybody.
Immediately goes, God damn it, was it me?
Fuck. Everybody goes, fuck.
Yeah. It's like, I need the 10 points on this.
Yeah. And clear and safe and stand up where you're at and walk in on the safety van. Wonder who got shot.
Yeah, that's a tough one because they don't do that unless there's a catastrophic accident.
Fuck. It was scary.
Yeah.
And then you're walking up to the van and everybody's got a full head count. They said, get in the fucking van. We're like, what's happening? Terrorists just attacked New York. Guys looked at each other like, we're thinking this is some sort of joke and what the,
Yeah.
Without hesitation, the instructor looked at us in the eye and said, get in the fucking van. No more, and just nothing else said. We all got in the van, we drove in, and we walk into the burning buildings, inside the talk, inside the classroom.
On the TVs, yep.
And I don't think anybody said a word. We just went and started cleaning our gear, cleaning our weapons, packing our shit.
Yeah.
Watching the buildings burn.
Where was, I'm assuming you were in a platoon at that time, so you were doing the pro dev phase or the professional development. How long after 9/11 until you did your first deployment to Afghanistan or Iraq?
Not till 2003.
Okay, so it was a bit.
I never went to Afghanistan.
You really?
Yeah.
Was that just a timing issue or what caused that?
I don't know. That's, yeah. I was never on a platoon. I was never on a team that was going to Afghanistan. You on the West Coast, I mean, that's
I did my Afghanistan. Actually, I take that back.
Well, you did.
I did Afghanistan and Iraq multiple times at Dam Neck. And then
Right.
I actually, at Team 3, the last deployment I did in 2010 was to Afghanistan.
Yeah.
But most of the team, they were doing Cree stuff or going to the Philippines. So I just happened to be at a team in an element that was sourced to go over there. Only one troop out of the team actually went there.
Yeah.
Yeah. So 2003, I was there as well. Were you there for the initial invasion?
Nope. I didn't get there until maybe it's 2004.
Okay.
I take that back.
Because March of 03 was the invasion. I think. Pretty sure. Might have been April. It was in 2003.
So we were at BIOP and
Baghdad International Airport.
we took turns. We had shifts. We did half the deployment at BIOP, working with the West Coast team. That was a good time. Great guys.
Do you know what team it was?
Can we say that?
Yeah.
Well, now I can't. Now I don't know which team it was.
God damn it.
I'm sorry.
How many times have you been hit in the head?
I can.
Guess. We're going to say Team 1, because that's a good West Coast team. It was an odd number.
I know exactly. I know.
Don't say the guys.
I won't say the guys.
Say the team.
Right. Man, it was good.
Yeah,
Good
it's cool
guys.
that you were able to take, and I don't know if a lot of guys have had that experience of interop between the West and East Coast, because there was some big brother, little brother syndrome even in our own community pre 9/11.
Absolutely. Well, it still is.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I mean,
I think
everybody knows that the West Coast is better, right? So I understand why you guys would be upset.
at volleyball.
I get it.
Yeah.
I mean, you guys would play volleyball if the weather didn't suck in Virginia.
True. But then what would he do with all the Carhartt in Copenhagen?
I don't know. In the diesel trucks, I don't know. Park them in the parking lot. Do it. Yeah, who knows?
Yeah.
So how was that first deployment?
It was good. We split the time between there, between BIOP and then doing protection details for the
Yep.
incoming government. We had Jalal Talabani, the president, right off the bat, and my team had everybody had the prime minister, but my platoon, I should say, had Jalal Talabani. So, yeah, that was interesting, as you know.
Yeah.
As you fully know, we were never trained for protection to be PSD, but
It's actually my least favorite mission set
nobody likes it.
because of the complete reactive nature and the fact that you have to stand there and posture and wait for somebody literally to take action against you before you can react.
That's right.
Yeah.
Absolutely. I think I would love to have been on the training cadre at Blackwater, though, for every platoon that came through and did their first training of PSD.
It's probably an absolute shit show.
When the first, well, I remember ours, when the first gunshot's going off and you're supposed to get the PSD off the X and you're in the vehicles, or you're I think you're doing an escort from a building to a vehicle or vice versa, and contact, and you just have this rush of team guys attack full on.
As your principal's just like,
As the principal's
hey guys,
looking
is anybody
around.
gonna-"
He's wondering, do I drive? Should I?
I'm just going to, if you guys are good, I'll just get in the car. Yeah.
Yeah.
You got to train that mindset out.
Yeah.
Like somebody has to be responsible for this person we're protecting.
We're like, oh,
Yeah.
okay, I get it.
Running to the sounds of the gun
Yeah.
is it's a real thing.
Well, that's it.
Yeah.
When you're trained that from
day one. Yeah. It's
And
a
then-
hard concept to break of I am not going to shoot. I'm going to throw myself over this person,
On this
force you
person.
into a vehicle.
Yeah, and run away
Yeah.
as
It's a tough
fast
one.
as possible. Yeah, it was definitely challenging, but interesting, as I'm sure you know. Well, as you do know.
Yeah. And would your career progress after that? I mean, assuming you got back and fired off another platoon, work up, deployment.
Yeah, exactly.
Ad nauseum.
Yeah. Yep. Eventually got to that point of burnout, I guess is what it was. Or maybe it was undiagnosed concussions. I don't know. I don't know what it was, but that was to the point where I knew I wasn't operating on all cylinders and had that conversation with that was 2007.
Yeah. What was the origin of the majority of the concussions? Breaching charges?
I was a lead breacher.
Yeah.
For several deployments.
I'm going to guess you were inside of minimum safe distance a few times.
Man, I'll tell you. Well, we didn't know what we didn't know. I mean, we were definitely...
And sometimes you know what you know, and the opportunity to do what you're supposed to do doesn't present itself.
It wasn't tactically sound. It would have put... Yeah.
I have been rocked, just absolutely flattened by charges that I was almost always on the security team. I was a breacher, but not the primary breacher. So I'd go up and I'd be holding security and, bringing the breacher back while holding onto the door
and just eat it.
And
how many times?
Legitimately eat it.
How many times?
Countless. Headaches, nosebleeds.
And then we do it again.
Yeah.
The same night sometimes. And then we do it again.
Or you may do that in the courtyard to get in, and then you're still breaching on the inside.
Still breaching the inside.
Yeah, I have been absolutely flattened by those charges.
The worst I recall was the charge going off, and same thing, that the team goes in. I roll out. I was the breacher, so I roll out of the way. And the team makes entrance, and I can't find my safety. I try to locate my weapon safety to roll in, and I can't find it.
Like, damn it, who moved it?
Somebody moved my fucking safety. Damn, fucking new guys. And it took me, I would say, 10 seconds to get for the bell, for the ringing to stop, and for my vision to come back. I'm still on nods. Yeah. That vision to come back, and for me to physically locate that safety so I could go through the door.
And even when you did, let's be honest, you probably shouldn't have gone through the door anyway. Just because you could find the safety doesn't mean you were going to manipulate it in any fashion that was going to be gunslinger in nature. Yeah, you're better off just sitting down.
I'm very grateful. it's a blessing, yeah. Some new guy didn't pop out in front of me wearing that Haji mask.
Yeah. It's interesting they let you be a head breacher as a corpsman as well. It's actually real, and sniper.
Yeah.
That's awesome. I know a lot of guys who were like, "Oh no, you're a corpsman.
Yeah.
You can't go to comm school. You're not going to be a sniper. You're not going to be a JTAC. You're going to sit here and carry the medical stuff."
I did those too, and I was very grateful at the time. I was a new guy. I was just eating up as much training as I could get, and that was another thing I wish I would have changed.
Yeah.
Because, jack of all trades, master of none. I'm not even jack of all trades. I've got all of those.
I'm definitely the master of none.
Man, I would have liked to have been really good at one.
Yeah, but then you know what? The stuff that we were asked to do, you would have. You know what I mean? I just think the SEAL community rewards the multi-tool better than the scalpel.
I was definitely the multi-tool.
Yeah, which is, you're always
and
going
at
to
the
work.
And at the time, and that's what. Yeah.
Yeah.
I guess that's what. Yeah.
Yeah, I wanted to be a comm guy because I'm thinking in my head, we're always going to need a radio.
Yeah.
Want to be a JTAC? It's like, well, that's awesome when things come off of airplane wings and just go. I want to be a sniper because that's cool, and then it'll make my field craft even better. And I would pick stuff early on in my career based off of how could I make myself more useful.
More employable.
I didn't want to be like a special teams player. I just wanted to be a guy who could play both sides of the ball.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
As you said. Medic, sniper, and
breacher
were I think the top three.
Yeah.
I think that's a safe.
The only other thing you could add to that would be comm guy.
I'm sorry, comms.
Yeah.
I'd say
because you're going to every operation.
Comm, sniper, and medic.
Oh yeah, you're going on everything.
Yeah.
You are going on everything.
Yeah.
For sure. Yeah. So how many times did you end up going to Iraq?
4.
Probably back to back.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
And then when they relieved you, I'm assuming that was on your last time to Iraq?
No, that was my second to my last. So 9 times. So I don't really, I guess, it's like I don't count that one. Yeah, I did a 9th deployment to Iraq.
Okay.
That was in the talk.
Okay.
That's why I wasn't,
still fair enough.
That's why I wasn't counting it.
There.
Yeah.
Okay. All of those at Team 8?
No, 4 as well.
Okay.
4 and 4 and 8.
Okay.
Yeah.
And at some point, you're going to have to tell me the tale of how the military bent you over. And you had one of the... I don't even know how to describe it. I mean, I read a lot of the stuff that you sent, and then I stopped reading because I wanted to just have the conversation and talk about the experience that you went through.
Yeah.
And because it's unique, for sure. I think a lot of people are familiar with Eddie Gallagher's case.
Right.
But very few people are probably familiar with what happened with you inside of the military. Because everything we've talked about before is an awesome and amazing SEAL career.
Yeah.
But it doesn't sound like the military treated you in a very amazing way.
I don't think that's in their lexicon, the military to treat their...
I've seen it happen.
Yeah.
And, people will
I was
ask,
disappointed. I was very disappointed.
and I think you should be. And again, I don't know all the details because, like I said, I stopped reading. I'd rather hear it from you directly,
Yeah.
a broad idea of what happened. But, people will ask me about Eddie. They'll say, hey, well, do you believe Eddie? I'm like, listen, I was around the military long enough to see the military system absolutely screw people over.
Yeah.
But I was also around it long enough to see it rise to the level that absolutely everybody would want to see it rise to, and everything in between.
Mm-hmm.
So I cannot speak to the system and what is going on with his particular case. So you have to let the system play itself out
Yeah.
and hope that the chips fall where they should fall
Yeah.
and not where they're forced to fall.
Well said.
Yeah. Just
And
because I've seen it go both ways.
And that's exactly where I fell. It was perfect storming of time. It was at the height of the Me Too movement, 2013.
Okay.
And certain actors involved in the government using platforms to crack down on sexual assault in the military, which we're all for.
Yeah.
Majority of us, we have...
Well, I don't think anybody's pro-sexual
Nobody's
assault.
pro-sexual assault. And I would challenge the majority of the guys that you and I work with are protectors by nature. And
the vast majority, for sure.
and hold women highly respectable.
Agreed.
And chose the profession to protect those who can't protect themselves.
Even if they couldn't articulate that, I think it's one of the most common traits. Just like that early gravitational pull, and they may not be able to describe why.
Right.
I think as they grow up and they have a better understanding of themselves and their vocabulary, that's one of the most common things is they want to step up for people who can't step up for themselves.
Yes. None of us tolerate bullies.
Oh, bullies don't do well.
No.
I don't like bullies.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah. So the strength and the compassion equally of the guys that I've worked with has always impressed me, and always that's been that's the reason you stated. That's the reason when after 9/11 happened, and Blackwater was paying thousands of dollars a day for anybody with a trident to go do contracts.
Yeah.
That's why you stayed in, because you worked around with guys like that.
I agree.
And they had little girls and little boys to come home to, and they had their wives that knew you and looked at you to depend upon to make sure they got home. So sorry.
Yeah, no worries. I completely agree with everything that you're saying. I think there's a deep sense of being the protector inside of the SEAL community, for sure.
So that's probably why it was so crushing.
So what happened?
In 2013 when I was accused? I had just gotten to the West Coast. Oh, well, I guess let's start from on the East Coast. That 2012, I was acting troop chief, and we were going to deploy again. And we were doing SAUC down in North Carolina.
Also known as urban combat. What is that? SAUC is Special Operations in Urban Environment or something like that? Or
urban combat.
I don't know. I can't fucking keep up the acronyms. I know most of them, but at some point I'm like...
Exactly.
Yeah.
And I was running the troop. My boss was in DC at school, I think, at the time, or something. The actual troop chief.
Mm-hmm.
So I was just platoon chief, acting troop chief, and we went through an entire day of training, and no problems, no issues, until it was time to just do hot wash, let him hang, circle up, and everybody spoke their part. Every element debriefed their portion. It came to me, and I was going to do a cleanup shot as usual, and I looked at all my guys, and these are guys I'm going to deploy with in a couple months, and I can't remember what the fuck just happened. I don't know what we just did 5 minutes ago. And I looked at him, I said, senior guy, whoever the senior guy was, go get weapons and comms, put away, I'll see you back at work. Drove back to Virginia Beach, back to the team, got in work, picked up the phone, called the boss, tell him something's wrong. I don't know what it is, but this ain't good. And now here is an example of leadership I appreciated very much. His response was, whatever it is, we'll get it taken care of. Don't worry about it. We'll swing the bat for you. Go over to medical, get your blood work done. Make sure you didn't pick up something somewhere. Mm-hmm. Let them do a full physical, figure it out. And yeah, it was crushing, because I just, every single one of my guys, and they knew I was.
Yeah, if you're recognizing it in yourself, there's a good chance the people around you are picking it up as well too.
Yeah, and years later, I had conversations with some of those guys, and they picked up, and they
might not have known exactly what was going on, but they knew something was going on.
Yeah, so went to medical, got that all taken care of, and then of course everything came back fine, and they gave you the lovely, I think you need to go talk to psych, and which every team guy, everybody wants to hear. So I went to psychology, had a conversation with him. Wasn't more than 40, maybe 35, 40 minutes until he said, I think you'd be a good candidate for NICO, which, as you said, is National Intrepid Center of Excellence. Mm-hmm. And this is 2012. And he explained what it was and why he thought I was a candidate for it. I hadn't won anything. It was from my experiences, and everything from training and just workups. Yeah. We beat ourselves, and just looking back, I don't have to tell you, exactly. Yeah. But now we had to make the tough. I talked to my boss. I explained to him what happened, and he talked to the head shed, and they said, it's your call. We'll support you, whatever you want to do. But the bottom line was there was no call to make, because you can't deploy like that. And I found, I made that mistake the first time.
I was going to say, you'd already tried that.
I already tried that.
You know what that's going to look like a few months down the road.
Fuck. And this was going to be to Africa. This was going to be Eastern Africa. And that was an AO that I wasn't familiar with at the time. And just dealing with other government agencies, the State Department, so on and so forth. The last thing I need is to choke out somebody at the State Department, and get into a international incident somewhere or something.
Or just not be operating up to the standard they expect. Yep.
And that's the bottom line. And that's what I told the guys, which was at that point in time the worst day of my life, when I stand in front of the guys and said, listen, I don't know what the fuck's going on, and but I have to go find out. And so those were my words, but what I felt was, I'm taking a knee, and everybody else is exhausted. Everybody else is tired, and you have wives and children, and you've all been going just as long as I have, but I'm going to be the selfish one and take a break. So that was the worst day.
Yeah.
At that point.
I bet.
But and had I wish I'd made the call sooner, because by the time I got to NICO and I realized what it was about and the guys that were there, and the phenomenal staff and doctors and therapists and nurses that were there, and what they were doing, had I gone earlier, I could have taken care of myself, fixed the weapon system, and gotten back in line, and then, gone and maybe taken a little bit of time off, but then I would have been able to get back.
In taking that little bit of time off, you would have given yourself a lot more runway.
Exactly. Yeah. So I didn't, and so by the end of that time at NICO, I was nearing 20. I was a chief, post platoon chief, and I said, it's been a good ride, but it's time for me to look at something else. So that's why I took orders to Buds as well, to go do. I was a senior. I was the LCPO for leading chief petty officer for the training department, for the actual training department, not the all of training.
Gotcha.
So did ORMs, operational risk management, that kind of stuff. Did that,
which is what you joined the SEAL teams to do anyway. Fucking paperwork. For every evolution, for people who are listening, they think it's all like bullets and explosions. For every evolution we do, you do ORM, operational risk management. And there's a risk assessment and a risk statement, and it's got to be bottom line depending on the level of risk. It is an insane amount of paperwork, which nobody wants to do.
Who gets to do it? Yep. I was. People asked what I was doing there. I got I'd say I'd try to keep the boss out of jail.
Which is actually kind of what ORM does. Nobody uses it or cares about it until there's an incident.
That's right.
And then when there is an incident, it's one of the first things they look at.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Yeah. But then, of course, you want to keep the sled dog, keep the guys in their lanes too, so they don't go rogue.
No, it's important stuff.
It's important.
For sure. It's just not sexy.
No, exactly. That's very.
But it actually enables all the sexy stuff. It's the foundation from which a lot of that stuff is based.
Well said.
Yeah.
Absolutely necessary.
Yeah.
Absolutely. So, did that and was introduced. So I took those orders, and actually, en route to California, I hadn't even arrived yet. A good friend of mine, no, not a good friend, I'll take that back. A friend of mine introduced me to his current girlfriend's cousin via text. Asked if I'd be interested in meeting up with her, and I told her I'm not even there yet, and I have no place to live. I'm not ready to jump into a relationship or anything by any means. And he said, no, that's fine. She wants to party. She wants to hang out. She was an attractive woman. I've never dated anybody in Southern California. And I will say I was in the mindset of I had a moral casual attitude toward dating, as far as while in the teams watching all of my teammates and what they went through with their wives, it was very evident to me that I was never going to get married in the teams. And so when I met women, majority of them were very business oriented themselves. Mm-hmm. They had their own thing going on.
The relationship was secondary or tertiary is what you're saying.
Exactly.
Yeah.
To both of our lifestyles. Yeah. And
Which there's anything wrong with that. As long as both people are open and honest about what they expect out of it. I mean,
there's the crutch. As long as both people are open and honest. Yeah. And that worked. And that worked for us. Mm-hmm. And then getting there, having met her.
So she lived in San Diego?
She lived in San Diego. Actually
okay.
lived in Pasadena, California. She lived up north.
Okay.
She was
LA County.
She was visiting her cousins and her family down there in San Diego. And me being forthright and telling her my intentions off the bat that I'm just brand new there and I'm not looking for anything serious, she alluded, she didn't just allude, she stated the same. And so we started dating. Mm-hmm. It was very short, I'd say about 5 weeks, mm-hmm. until I realized that this is not somebody that I'm going to have a future with, and that, or I foresee a future with. And that I proposed, I said, I'm okay with just keeping this casual. She gave me the where is this going conversation. And I thought we had already discussed it. In fact, I wasn't very tactful. I should have been more tactful, but I said, this isn't going anywhere. It's the same when I met you. It's 5 weeks ago. If you're not comfortable with that, with our relationship, then I understand. I respect that. We can go our separate ways, but I can't give you anything more than that right now. And she says, no, that's fine. What I didn't know, what we hadn't been honest about, was that she was telling all of her friends and family that we're a couple, we're in love, and we're getting married. And and I found this out only later on, after the fact. Because when I finally did break up with her, a week later, I got a call from my boss telling me to go talk to NCIS, Naval Criminal Investigative Service.
Yeah. Which, by the way, that's never a good call to get.
No, it's not.
Ever.
And it's not, but I've had them before. And you thought, you figure something downrange. There was a shooter statement or somebody said.
I was going to say, every time I've talked to NCIS, it was not about an event that I was actually involved with. Right. They wanted information or had questions about somebody I may have known or something I might have knowledge of.
Exactly. Which that's what I assumed it was about. Which I was quickly corrected as soon as I got there, and they started asking me questions and setting up not, I don't know how to say it, but they started very, very politely, trying to get to know me. Whatever the small talk is.
Did they
whatever
tell you why you were there? Like, did they open with, hey, this is what we want to talk to you
No,
about?
and it finally got to that point after about 20 minutes. I said, look, guys, what are we talking? What's going on?
Yeah.
And then they came straight outright and they said, do you know a woman by the name of so-and-so? I said, yes, I do. And they said, well, she's claimed that you sexually assaulted her. And that was...
the portal to hell opening?
That was, yeah. That was the IED.
Yeah.
That my chest from that point on, I really didn't understand what they were saying. All I know is that a woman, had accused me of harming her. And now I have 2 federal agents asking me questions about it. So I'm sure it's not the first time or the last time that somebody sits there in shock in front of them. So they read me my rights.
In that initial meeting when they first sat down with you?
Yeah. And they asked me if I wanted to make any comments. Do I want to make any statements? And all I could think about was, no, absolutely not. Don't say a damn word. Get an attorney.
Yeah.
And again, this is the height of, now this is 2000, it's the end, this is 2013. Because I got there at the end of 2012, about November, December. So now we're talking about March, April timeframe of 2013. And so absolutely not. Something like that. I don't know what's going on right now. I can't think. I can't process this. I'm going to need some time, and I'm certainly going to talk to an attorney about this.
So they didn't charge you with anything right there, did they? Or did they? They
read me my rights.
Okay, so they Mirandized
I'm sorry, excuse me. You're correct. Yeah, they Mirandized me. They didn't charge me.
Okay.
Correct.
So they had no intention of detaining you that day. They were just
correct. I was
should say fact finding.
Right.
Okay.
Right. Which was the attitude that they had.
Okay.
Even though I question that, but of course I'm jaded, so I question a lot that the government anyway.
Yeah. Well, I think you might have reason to.
So, but went back to work, told the boss what was going on. And
how did the meeting end? Like, how did you close that meeting out?
Them swabbing me. They took
like
my
a DNA swab?
DNA swab.
Okay.
That was another of all the bad guys, of all the people that we had DNA swab, that we swabbed.
Yep.
And now somebody was doing it to me. And I'm like, wow.
And what did they leave it with? Like, hey, we'll get back to you?
Yeah.
Or did they bad cop you? Like, hey, fucker, this isn't over?
No, not at all. No, quite the opposite. There was both a male and a female in the room, and they were adamant about, you have every right not to say anything, but if you say anything, we can use it against you. No, they weren't being aggressive at all.
Okay.
So, and I have absolutely zero issue with them. They're doing their job. And it's very necessary.
Yeah. Does that thing keep creeping? I don't need to check this out.
I think so.
There you go. That'll probably fix it.
Thank you.
Or it might not fix it. I don't know. There you go. Look at that.
There you go.
Full service here.
Yep. So found that out and told the boss what was going on, and
Sure, that was a fun conversation.
I showed him. I immediately, of course, got all the text messages, copied those down that I had with her.
How did the accusation of sexual assault make its way to NCIS?
She contacted them.
Really?
Yeah, she contacted them. So I believe she went to. I believe she contacted base security, and then since they
probably a mandatory reporting requirement for them.
Yeah,
to NCIS.
And I don't think there's really anything that they could do.
Yeah.
They said contact NCIS, which is what she did.
Okay.
So
it was directly from her.
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
Yep. Yeah. The allegation was simply that the last time we were together wasn't consensual. There was no question whether or not we'd been sexually intimate, physically active. But we had several times over the course of 5 weeks. But it was the last time that we were together.
Okay.
Which happened to have been the day after I had that conversation with her, saying that, if this is not what you're comfortable with, then we can go our separate ways.
Okay.
So.
And how did it progress after that meeting? So you went and talked to your boss, and then how did it unfold?
I was told not to worry about it, and that it would work. It would work out. I certainly got an attorney, and he told me the same thing. He said, "I'm sorry that you have to go through this, but there's no evidence of a crime here." She made an allegation, and there has to be some sort of, you're innocent until proven guilty. Yeah. And that's where he's wrong, but we'll get to that too. But I was investigating. I went back to work as normal and just did my job as best as I could for, I'd say, about 18 months.
18 months from that initial interview.
Yeah. It took about 12 months. I have to backtrack. I'd say it took about 12 months till I was charged.
Okay.
Which they did end up coming and charging me.
Did you hear anything from them
at work
in that 12-month time period, from that first initial interview to that 12-month?
Not at all.
Okay.
Nope. And then got called in the XO's office one day at work, and
blind.
Jag was there, blind, and Jag was there. XO was there. CMC was there, and they charged me, but I was allowed to stay. I wasn't.
They didn't detain you.
I wasn't detained. No. And everybody else left, and I sat in front of the XO, and he's the only person at that command who said, I don't find you guilty until you're proven guilty.
Yeah.
As far as I'm concerned, you're innocent until proven guilty. And I said, well, sure doesn't feel that way, but thanks. I appreciate that. Great man. Lots of respect for him. And then when we went on our way, it took about another 6 months until they gave me a court martial. They did a whatever it is, it's an investigation to see if court-martials are appropriate.
Okay. The NCIS did this, or the command did?
No, not the command. Now it's gone above their head. Now it's part of.
Up at Warcom?
No, it's past Warcom. Now it's part of West. Now it's part of the.
So we're talking big Navy.
Big Navy.
Okay.
Yeah. God. So they do a fact-finding mission to determine whether or not a court-martial is appropriate.
And that's what they were doing in that 6-month time period from when you were charged?
Yes.
Okay.
And at the end of, I've got this paperwork, at the end of the fact-finding mission, it's a lieutenant. It's an 03 doing this.
Okay. Doing the fact-finding?
Yeah.
Okay.
And hearing both sides. And at the end of this fact-finding of 2 or 3 days, I think it was, it's like a hearing, but it's not. And the bottom line on the report states that there's no evidence to support the allegations, but they still recommend court-martial, which that's interesting in a lot of wide range.
Yeah.
Because what are you doing court-martialing somebody that you don't have evidence to support?
Yeah, you're taking punitive measures against
a
somebody
crime
without evidence of a crime.
And the number of court-martials, once a service member does go to court-martial, their chances of being found guilty are extensive.
Okay.
So
better than the coin toss, safe to say?
Absolutely.
Okay.
Which we found out very intimately because after, I was accused in March of 13, and I went to court-martial October of 14.
Okay. Yeah, it's about 18 months.
To which time NCIS had torn my life apart. They'd gone back to the East Coast, of course, talked to all my neighbors, talked to all my ex-girlfriends, and found out, which that do that. Absolutely,
yeah,
100%. That's called due diligence for their part. But there's no due diligence. They never investigated the accuser. Never. They knew where I was for the last 20 years. I was, at this point in time, I had almost 20 years in. I think I had 18 years in. And top secret clearance for 15 of those, which we get reinvestigated every 5 years. Mm-hmm. And they knew what was going on. They knew who I was. They have no idea who this woman is, but she made the allegations, and they ran with it. And this was the first glimmer of hope I had, where all of my neighbors, people I hadn't seen in years, all my girlfriends, girls that I had not had the greatest breakups with, only for the reason that they, again, I absolutely could have been more sensitive and tactful, but they knew they were second place to work. Yep. Which I regret. Not that they were, that's the choice I made at the time. Yeah. But I could have been more sensitive.
The job suffers last.
Yeah. And every single one of them said, yeah, he could be an asshole, but that's not him. He's not a rapist, which was amazing. I got phone calls from girls I hadn't spoken with in 10 years. And they said, hey, so-and-so is giving me a call. What's this all about? Is everything okay? And then let me know if you need me to show up in court for you. Pretty awesome.
Yeah.
To a girl that probably broke her heart. Or
yeah, could have had a better end.
Could have had a better end. And after all that time, after 18 months, went to court.
The hearing that you're talking about, the 2 or 3 day hearing?
Yes. Now that's court-martial.
Okay. Oh, now it's a court. So they recommended a court-martial proceeding after the 2 or 3 day hearing.
Yes.
Now you're going to a court-martial.
Now I'm actually in a court-martial. And the government never calls NCIS as a witness because there's nothing to testify. They have nothing against me. There's nothing to testify against. So on the sole accusation and testimony of my accuser, I was found guilty of sexual assault and sentenced to 3 years in prison and dishonorably discharged. My rank was dropped to E1 without pay. So still give you the medical benefits because you're going to prison.
Yeah, a military prison.
A military prison.
Was it Leavenworth?
No, it was Miramar.
Okay.
Under 10-year sentence will go to Miramar. Over 10 years will go to Leavenworth.
Okay.
And now I could have been given 30.
Oh, that was the maximum sentence?
Maximum sentence, 30 years in
Fuck.
prison. And yeah.
At the court, I've never been anywhere near a court-martial proceeding. Are they talking to you, or is it people reviewing the evidence and making a decision, and that decision is final?
The latter. They never spoke to me until sentencing.
Were you physically present?
I was present.
Okay.
Absolutely. And the evidence that we have, it was overwhelming, and that's I was constantly reassured by attorneys and my command that nothing's going to come of it. They saw the evidence. They saw the text messages. Even text messages and her posturing and attitude after the alleged incident, some of which was she invited me to her place for the next weekend because we had been bouncing back and forth, to which unfortunately I denied. I turned her down. I didn't deny. I turned her down because I wanted to go rock climbing with a buddy of mine, which I did. But who knows? Had I gone and spent the following weekend, but you can't change it.
Yeah.
But she, she was sitting on my lap. We were making out. We had lunch together. We had a picnic in the park afterwards. Just everything. It was, I don't know. So I walked into the court. It was a judge alone. We didn't have a jury because I found out during the jury pick that the command that was court-martialing me also picks the jury. They also pick the judge. And the jury, one of the members of the jury that they had picked was the senior SAPR representative for that command, sexual assault prevention and reporting. So they had a chief on that within my jury that was the senior representative for the command against that. So we chose judge alone, and it was a female judge. So
you had the choice.
I believed
judge alone.
Mm-hmm. I believed if anybody was going to do the right thing and know what was going on here, it was another woman. So, but I didn't have a background on this judge either, which I found out. This is so layered. They're not even judges. They're not a judge. They do a 2-week course in the United States Navy. They're attorneys.
So they go through the JAG Corps.
They go through the JAG Corps,
course,
and then you have a 2-week course, and now you're a judge.
I don't know how it works in the civilian world, but that does sound like quite a short time period.
Yeah. Well, just the simple fact that true federal judges that can issue out, or other judges that can issue out a 30-year sentence or even a 3-year sentence on something like that, they don't have, their paycheck's not going to get, how do I say, they can abide by the law. They don't have to play with the political climate. This is an 06, 05 or 06.
And for people listening, that's a relatively senior officer.
A senior officer who would like to be a more senior officer, and a next pay grade up. And especially if they are, even so, if they going to their civilian side afterwards, if they're going to get out, they're playing. Their paychecks depend on what they say, and they're going
on the civilian side.
They're going to abide. No, on the military side is what I'm saying.
Oh, okay, gotcha.
Yeah. So, but just the court alone, we could spend a day talking about that, but after 3 days of no evidence of the government, the prosecution, except for the accusation of the accuser, I was found guilty and ended up charged and sentenced. So she gave me the minimum sentence, which was 3 years.
I'm assuming that your attorneys presented the information that you've talked about, the text messages, all of those things.
Yeah, and much of it is fascinating because much of it was denied under certain military rules of evidence, MRE. Yeah.
That sounds way better than meal ready to eat.
Yeah. But certain military rules of evidence, they were not allowed to be submitted. So it almost felt as if that anything the prosecution offered, the government could just say, yeah, that we don't care.
So found guilty, do they take you into custody right there?
Right there. Yeah.
Straight handcuffs, Miramar, in your dress uniform, I'm assuming?
Yep.
Okay.
Yep. So took a while to try to process that. Definitely denial. The world just implodes in itself. Anything you could possibly think of that you believed now is fractured. Your perception of reality is now completely dismal. You have no idea. And the only thing I kept thinking was, okay, they're going to figure it out. They fucked up, and they're going to get it right. It's just going to be maybe a couple days, or maybe I'll be here for a week, whatever. And that led to a few weeks. That led to a few months, and that led to 2.5 years. I got off 6 months for good behavior. So, but
how did you spend your time while you were in there?
I did the best to keep my mouth shut because I knew they want another reason to charge you further. If anything were to happen and they have any opportunity,
like behavior based,
exactly, then I could find myself in Leavenworth, which was an entirely different beast. Miramar, you're stripped of all your rights as a human being, and that in itself was definitely new. Going from being a protector, going from being of service to others, now you're the monster, and you have absolutely no rights. And do what you're told, or else.
What would an average day in there look like?
Being woken up by a blaring alarm that scares the shit out of you, wakes you up every morning at 5 o'clock, and we'd have to clean up the area, clean themselves, clean up the common spaces, and then go do breakfast at some point in time. Then go, if you're lucky, then you had to go to your job spaces. Everybody had a job to do. And you work all afternoon.
What was the job they had you doing?
It fluctuated. It changed. I worked at getting something outside so I could just be outside and be away from other people. As much time as I could get by myself to breathe and just be alone, I did. And then that's all you can do is just breathe. In fact, I found myself on several occasions. That's all I had left. There was a course, there was a program, which I fully support the spirit behind it, and I think it was about a week long. For anybody that was related to sex offenses, had to go to this program. Again, totally support that. If you're a convicted criminal, they assume that you actually did that crime, and so it's part of a type of rehabilitation. And the first thing you do on day one during that is you have to sign a statement confessing your guilt of that crime. I imagine.
Really?
Mhm. I imagine something like, I haven't been to AA, but I imagine something like that where you have to admit that you're an alcoholic. Well, to this, you have to admit to the crime that you committed. And it's paperwork, and wouldn't sign it. And the person facilitating the course said, you have to. And I said, I don't have to. I have to maintain residence within these walls until I'm released. I have to breathe in and out. I have to sleep whenever possible, if possible, but I don't have to sign something that I'm not guilty of. And so they immediately removed me from the program, put me in solitary confinement for 30 days. But what was worse was they cut me off cold turkey at some point in time during that for my medication that I'd been on for the brain injuries that I was diagnosed several years prior, or a couple of years prior, which were SNRIs, serotonin norepinephrine release inhibitor. It was Effexor. So I'm in a cell, no support network, no means of contacting anyone, and no means of self, and without the medication, cold turkey that I'd been on for years. And I definitely hit bottom.
Yeah, I bet.
So that was, at that point, that was the worst part. That was the next worst day of my life.
How are they able to take those medications?
Well, we have, of course, we can't have meds, on us.
But aren't they required to administer to you the medication that you've been prescribed?
Mm-hmm.
So they just chose not to.
Right.
Gotcha.
Yeah. Which thankfully didn't last long. I was put back on medication, and I can't recall how fast that happened. It could have been, I'm thinking anywhere from 3 to 5 days.
Okay.
Good friends of mine, several people who are doctors and therapists, one of which is on the board of parole for California state penitentiaries. They all wrote letters to the commanding officer when they found out this was happening. And they said, what you're doing is highly illegal and you're going to stop it. You're going to correct it.
Yeah.
So they did. I don't know. I'd like to believe that the CO wasn't aware.
Yeah. I can see him not being aware of absolutely everything going on, but that doesn't absolve him of the responsibility.
Correct.
Yeah.
Correct. We know that. Yeah.
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 So you get back out of solitary, spend the rest of your time, I'm assuming, in whatever, I don't know if they call it general population, but...
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Yeah. And just processing every day on how this happened. I gave myself permission not to have to deal with it, not to process it, just to breathe, just to tolerate, thinking that somehow it's going to get fixed. And then after 2.5 years, I was released. I was given all the type of I was dishonorably discharged, pending appeal. I was required to register as a sex offender, which also removes, you're not allowed within 500 yards of schools and all these things, and just everything, just a
massive life-changing, life-altering issues.
Yeah. Not to mention, now you're a convicted felon.
What were your plans when you got out?
Yeah. You can't get a job. I couldn't get a job driving Uber. I can't pass the background investigation,
Yeah.
So I went from all those years in the SEAL teams conducting hundreds of operations. Now I can't get a job driving Uber. Saving grace was my friends and my family, my neighbors. Same neighbors that prior to this in Coronado that I had lived with. I lived on their property in a guest house. They were all there for me during everything, during the trial. I told everybody as soon as I was accused what I was accused of, because I'd been working with all their kids. I'd been mentoring youth there on the island both men and female, young adults, teenagers, for quite some time. And when I was accused, of course, I went to all the parents right away and told them what I was accused of. And every single one of them said, "What can we do to help?"
Yeah.
Of course, my response was, "Don't worry about it. Nothing's going to come of it.
It's going to blow over.
It's fine." Yeah. There's no credit. There's no valid,
Yeah.
But so there's no way that anything could happen. And everybody was floored. But those were the same people that were there for me when I got out. And
That's awesome.
And supported me. Otherwise, I would have been homeless. I was trying to figure out, honestly, it came to that because at one point in time, when I got the call that my appeal had been denied, and that was it. That was my second appeal, and you're a convicted felon for the rest of your life. You're a registered sex offender. I couldn't process that.
Yeah, that's a big bite.
Yeah. And so all I could think about how to, where to go, what to do. I got to be honest with you, the thought crossed my mind to do contract work and just go overseas and just be reckless.
Yeah.
So I couldn't live here in the States and be a burden to my family and friends. And
I don't think it wouldn't have probably been very easy to find contract work.
Right.
If it was a U.S.-based country with a background check,
right,
would have been the same issues.
Right. Isn't that amazing?
Yeah.
Yep. So,
how long were you living that nightmare after getting out? Obviously, the time when you were in 2.5 in the
an
prison.
Additional 2.5 years. I lived that till November of 2018.
And then what was the crack or the ray of light where you started? I mean, I can only imagine that you probably at that point were in a headspace of, this is my fucking life.
Yeah.
Like, I have to, it is what it is. We need to move on.
Yeah. Yeah. That lasted 2 days until I got a phone call from my original attorney, my original government-appointed attorney, wonderful woman. And she was a lieutenant at the time. And she called me and said, "Did you get the information?" I said, "Yeah, I heard a couple days ago." She goes, No. And the information about the whistleblower.
Oh, you were talking about 2 days ago, you got the information that the
appeal was denied.
Yep.
Yeah.
Gotcha.
And she said, No, this is new. This is the information about whistleblower. I said, I haven't gotten any other information. Turns out that the Judge Advocate General of the Navy, the deputy at the time, James Crawford, had a conversation with my convening authority. My convening authority, I've tried to explain this as simply as possible before, but the convening authority is a 2-star or above, or admiral in our case,
mm-hmm.
general with the Army or Air Force. And a 2-star who oversees cases and has the authority to determine whether or not these are legitimate or are being done lawfully.
So like a higher level of scrutiny or oversight.
It's supposed to be.
Okay.
Correct. That's the intent.
That's the design.
That's the design.
Yeah.
However, the way the process is, those people aren't themselves attorneys. So my convening authority was a fighter pilot. He was an F-14, a naval aviator, who had rose to the rank through that community
mm-hmm.
to a 2-star. So what in actuality happens is you have a JAG, a Judge Advocate General, assigned to you, a staff JAG, assigned to you. Now
is it fair to call a JAG a military lawyer?
Exactly right.
Okay.
Yeah.
Just want to make sure that
Absolutely.
So we're talking about people who are in the military, but their occupation is an attorney/lawyer.
Correct. And that person was the rank of 05, seeking 06, which was a commander seeking captain in the Navy. And to attempt to try to make a long story short, there was coercion, there was foul play, I don't even have to make it short. There was downright fraud and manipulation, and they call it unlawful influence. It's illegal. It's
tampering.
It's tampering. It's going outside of what the law says. And to quote the whistleblower, comments that he overheard a conversation between these gentlemen that should have never been had because it was about me. And the Deputy Judge Advocate General of the Navy doesn't have those conversations with a convening authority. It's outside, and he shouldn't be having that. And he was putting pressure to make sure that I was found guilty and that I continued to stay guilty. And we're going to boost numbers for Congress. Justice be damned.
So it was, and I'll paraphrase, correct me if I'm wrong, the pressure was coming because they wanted to appear to a higher authority as if they were cracking down on sexual assault at the height of the Me Too movement.
Exactly right.
Okay.
Right. So what in actuality you're doing is creating more victims or victimhood and this is why.
And you're undermining the legal structure of the military. Which
is, as they've stated several times, the mortal enemy of the Uniform Code of Military Justice. So
somebody overhears this.
So somebody overhears this, and now this is a junior officer himself. He's a lieutenant commander. He's got a wife and kids. He doesn't know what to do with it. He's held this for quite some time, and he can't let it go. He can't sleep. He can't live with himself not doing something. But the problem is with this type of information, what you do is you go to a department within the Navy as an attorney. You go and you bring it to them, and that's a bunch of other attorneys, and they're going to take a look at it, and they're going to give you some guidance on it. And they say, as a whole, we think that this is morally and ethically correct course to take. And he did that, and they said, we're not going to work. We're not going to have anything to do with this because it was about the Deputy Judge Advocate General of the Navy. Mm-hmm. It was about their boss's boss. And
so they're fearing shit running downhill.
100%. It's just fascinating how it all plays out. But the long story short, I'd love to get into detail another time, maybe shorter. But there was what was called a Dubé hearing. We offered up. Well, let me say this. When they got the information, as soon as I got the information, I said, let me contact my appellate attorneys. And I contacted them. Now, there's 3 of my appellate attorneys. It was a small team. And they said, what do we do with this information? They have no idea. It's unprecedented. They've never dealt with this information before, something like this. So I believe after sitting around a table for a while, they said, let's just call him. Let's call him and ask. Because now he's retired. The convening.
Oh, interesting.
Yeah.
Call the guy who was having the conversation.
The convening authority was a 2-star admiral, Patrick Lorge. So they called him, cold called him, and said, sir, this is Lieutenant so-and-so. I represent Senior Chief Barry, and we have this information in regards to his case. Would you like to comment on it? And he confirmed, or he stated the affirmative on everything they said. And they were blown away. They said, just want to clarify, sir, you understand that we represent Senior Chief Barry. He said, I know who you represent. I know the questions you're asking me. And the answer is yes. They got back to me immediately, and they said they're going to send him an affidavit for him to sign. They said he sounded like he'd been waiting for the phone call, like he'd finally gotten the phone call he was waiting for. And they immediately sent over that affidavit. It was, I believe, 12 paragraphs.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, you forwarded it to me.
Yeah. And he signed it as is, didn't change anything. He only added to it. He added a final paragraph to it. And as you've read, it states that he was begging forgiveness for his failure in leadership and
he was asking for his wrong to be righted.
That's what. Excuse me. Thank you.
Yeah, I'm paraphrasing. We could find it or post it, but that's essentially what it says. I think he was asking whatever authority that was going to go in front of to correct the mistake that he had. I mean, the only way to put it is willingly made.
Yeah, yeah, and that too. When in the future, allow an innocent man to remain innocent.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So what impact did that affidavit have? What did your lawyers do with that?
That went to the Court of Appeals for the Armed Forces, which was the equivalent of a grand jury. No, it's equivalent to Supreme Court, actually.
Okay.
It's a 5 true judge panel. These are federal judges. And they oversaw the case. It's called, the Dubé hearing was another fact finding. And the Dubé takes all the information, has witnesses, has testimonies, and they actually they subpoenaed both my convening authority, the Judge Advocate General of the Navy prior my case, and then the current Judge Advocate General, who is Patrick Lorge, as well as other witnesses. And from that hearing, they determined that there was reason to present it to the Court of Appeals for the Armed Forces. That was fascinating. And that was taken away from the Navy, and there was a Air Force judge sitting on that who was about to retire.
This had to have felt like your first victory in a fucking string of just horrendous defeats.
I felt like I broke the surface, finally.
Yeah.
I've been drowning. I've been doing pool comp for the last several years, and I finally got a breath of fresh air.
I mean, it was certainly no guarantee, but Jesus, I'd put that sucker in the win column.
It was yeah.
So what happened after that?
So I went to, eventually there was the CAF, the Court of Appeals for the Armed Forces. And I've never been more proud of a team than of my team of attorneys. Even after the government tried, not only after manipulating my case, they tried to manipulate my judges for my appeals. And the beauty was, this captain in the Navy who's in charge of the defense on the West Coast, these men and ladies who participate are all genius. But he got he assigned reserve attorneys, reserve JAG officers to the case. So they didn't, their paycheck wasn't going to be affected by the Judge Advocate General of the Navy.
Yeah.
He wasn't a threat to them.
Yeah, because they had a life outside.
They have a life outside.
2 weekends a month and a week a year.
Exactly. And this is what they did for a living.
1 weekend a month, or however the fuck it works.
Yeah. Yeah. So they actually tried to give me an appellate attorney, a lieutenant from Guam, to be my appellant for this. But this captain, God bless him, said, no, that's not going to fly. And I was assigned a team of spectacular attorneys. And they were brutal. They went after the government, and it truly reinstated my faith in humanity, which had been crushed for obvious reasons. But they're remarkable human beings. And as I said, both men and women, just intelligent, driven. It was nice to see that my belief that the truth didn't matter, that facts were a terrible defense, eventually was resolved.
So how long did the CAF take? How long was that whole process before they ruled?
It was a day.
Wow.
That was very quickly. They heard the case, and truth be told, they had been researching it prior to that.
I don't doubt that. I'm
right,
sure they did their due diligence
as
well.
They did all of the work, so it was just...
But the actual proceeding was a day.
The proceeding was a day.
Okay.
Yeah.
And what was their ruling?
They had dismissed my case with prejudice, overturned and dismissed with prejudice, and I was ordered all rights, pays, and privileges to be returned.
And returned back to active duty, correct?
And returned back to active duty.
So what does that look like? You had been out, like you said, you were relying on friends and family, and then you show up back on base? Like what? What does that even look like?
Yeah. I wouldn't wear a uniform. I was issued, all my stuff's gone. Because
yeah, of course.
Years
discharge.
Years prior, Master at Arms came and cleared out my locker and took all my stuff. All that stuff's gone.
Oh, man, I didn't think about that.
Everything I had was gone. So I had nothing. So I had to be issued everything, And then I was assigned to a unit, a supply area that was off the grid, and
Because how much time left did you have to do to hit your 20?
I'd already gone over.
Oh, okay.
I'd gone over my 20 at this point, so now I'm at about 20. Well, I retired at 25.
Okay.
So
So what was the point of bringing you back onto active duty then? Did you want to?
they had to process me out.
Oh, that's right. They had to. Shit, that's right.
Yeah.
They had to change the old DD 214.
I had to go. I had to go through the very important checking out process,
Yeah.
and so they could tell me what to do for the rest of my life and how to. Yeah.
How did the military treat you? I'm assuming that probably took about 6 months.
Correct.
Yeah.
That's exactly. Yeah, it took about 6 months.
How'd the military treat you during that time?
The command that I was assigned to was spectacular.
Good.
I had known the XO prior, and although he wasn't aware of what happened to me prior, he was ready to receive and support.
Yeah.
And he told me that on day one, as soon as I got there, he said, "Tell me what you need, and we'll make it happen."
I would have said, I need you to leave me the fuck alone and let me get out of the military.
I said that.
Good.
Not with those exact words,
Pussy.
but he received. Yeah. he received exactly.
Just kidding. I would.
Yeah.
Well, actually, knowing me, I probably would say exactly that and have a horrendous 6 months.
Yeah. But he wasn't the enemy. And that's one of the blessings I've learned from this experience. I've gotten more from this experience than they've taken from me. I'm very grateful. This is absolutely the worst thing that happened to me in my life.
Yeah.
But it's absolutely the greatest thing.
So that ruling from the CAF,
Yeah.
does that, how do you get off the sex offender registry? I mean, does it take care of all of that stuff for you? And
It does.
Thank God.
I got a letter in the mail said you're no longer required to register.
No longer convicted felon.
Yeah, no longer convicted felon. It's fast. It's just fascinating how your life changes like that overnight with a stroke of a pen or with a note.
Yeah. Or how it couldn't have.
Or how it
potentially.
couldn't have. It's just, yeah.
So you've been out now for less than a year.
Yeah.
How does it feel?
It's, of course, as anybody can say, it's quite an adjustment. I want to experience this freedom I've never had. And that was not only just never had because we were busy working, serving.
So you had years of your life taken from you.
But yeah. And
the serving one's voluntary. I mean, we surrender those years of our lives for what I would say is a higher calling or a purpose.
Yeah.
But you had some time that was legitimately stolen from you.
Yeah.
Which you can't get back. I mean, nothing you do is going to net you that time back.
Right.
And the back pay, I'm sure, is awesome, but it still doesn't give you that time.
Oh, no, I'm still working on that.
Oh, they haven't paid you yet?
Not all. That's fascinating. So check this out.
Do tell.
You'll appreciate this. So I got my back pay at EA. I would have been E9 had I not been
for sure
convicted of erroneously and
you would have been up
incarcerated
for multiple times.
Right. So there's that, which an E9 retirement's much better than E8. But in addition to, they withheld all my specialty pays, which is a good chunk of change, especially over a 5-year term.
Yeah.
And those specialty pays for the listeners, we're talking about dive, demolition, jump, hazardous duty. That's quite a chunk of change. We're talking 6 figures. They withheld those because I didn't maintain my qualifications during that period.
Why weren't you diving when you were in prison?
Why wasn't I not playing with C4?
I know. It's not their fault that you didn't maintain your quals, Keith.
I got to stop. I know. I got to stop pointing fingers at everybody else.
Fuck, man. Yeah, no shit you didn't maintain your quals.
Yeah. So that's a fight I'm still going to fight, of course.
Yeah.
There's a lot of fight. And I've got time.
Well, yeah, that's the thing is now you're on your own time as opposed to the government's time.
Yeah.
When you look back, I mean, now The UCMJ, the military justice process, what are your thoughts on it now, looking back in the
I
aggregate?
won't refer to it as the justice, Uniform Code of Military Justice. It's a legal system that's completely broken, and it needs to be overhauled. And they keep, because of my case, and after Eddie's, they actually ordered an investigation into the Navy to overhaul it. And nobody's willing to be big boys. And I said, they demand that of their juniors. They demand that of us as operators. But they themselves aren't asking the real questions, and they're not willing to make the hard course corrections, which need to happen. So this is just going to continue.
It'd make the service better.
Unfortunately, I still see it, and it breaks my heart. This is not an isolated incident by any stretch of the imagination. This happens all the time. And so...
You know what doesn't happen all the time is the whistleblowers. Because, I mean,
that's it.
Looking at this from
there's
my
no
first
reason
time
I
taking
should
a
be.
look at this, it's that whistleblower that was the straw that broke the metaphorical, camel's back.
100%.
Yeah.
Yeah. It's remarkable.
The military would be better if they took a critical and objective eye at all of their process and procedures, UCMJ and everything. I mean, why can't it continue to evolve and innovate like everything that they ask us to do?
The same reason they're not maintaining standards. Go on any base right now and look at, and we're not talking junior enlisted, we're talking senior enlisted, we're talking officers, we're talking commanding officers. None, that's not fair. There is a gross lack of maintaining military standards.
And bearing physical appearances, you mean bearing?
Holy shit. They've just written it off. Why? Because it's not fair. It's not fair.
You know what else isn't fair? Military service.
Military service.
You know what else isn't fair?
There's standards
War.
for a reason. Yeah.
Yeah.
So because of that, that's what's encroaching. And that's why I truly believe, now it may just because, of course, I was saturated in it for several years, but I truly believe it's a threat to national security, because you're not going to have the type of young men coming into persons, but we're talking about special operations, to want to dedicate their lives to a service that we see it today. They don't have the trust in their leadership that they're going to back them up when bad things happen, and bad things always happen. And so if you're not going to get killed by someone downrange or something downrange, then you're going to be accused of something when you get back. And nobody's got your back, because everybody's going, the senior, not all, there's some outstanding, they're still outstanding. I work with some phenomenal officers in leadership. And they're still there, but boy, they're getting thin. And everybody, challenge me, please. I'm more than open for anybody that wants to debate that.
Yeah, if you stop holding the standards in the justification that you use is that they're not fair, and you are not looking at the roles and responsibilities of the armed services, you're out of your fucking mind.
And that's what we're doing.
Yeah. I would agree with you. I think that is a threat to national security.
Yeah. It's terrifying.
The fair is something that happens in Idaho, and there's fucking candy corn and a Ferris wheel. And if you're looking for the fair, that's where you should go. If you're going to go into a profession of arms, which all four, well, if you count the Coast Guard, 5 branches of the U.S. military, it's exactly what they are.
Yeah.
You can throw fair in the garbage can.
Yeah.
There's going to be an essence of fair. There's going to be a system in place that ensures that fairness is occurring, or there should be. But don't think for a second that the real world gives 2 shits about your theory about fairness.
That's it.
Yeah.
And we used to be above it. I don't know what. I mean, now
Could it be a generational shift?
I guess it's a generational shift. You and I haven't been in during the period of time. I haven't dealt with anybody since I was convicted in 14.
Yeah.
So that's quite a chunk of change since I had any sort of leadership responsibilities to see what was going on.
And like I said, I got out the last day of June 13, so I'm timed out on my experience as well.
Yeah.
I have my concerns.
Yeah.
For sure.
Oh, I'm terrified.
Well, here's the thing. If you and I are terrified,
Yeah.
and we actually know the community that we're talking about,
Yeah.
and the capabilities that we're supposed to have versus potentially, because again, I'm timed out, so I can't speak with any level of authority.
Yeah.
Versus the capabilities that potentially may be eroding. Like, there's a lot of people who should be scared. Fuck, man. I don't even know. I mean, I don't even know what to say. My experience with the UCMJ and the legal system in the military was limited at best. But I'm hearing now more stories along the lines of yours than along the lines of fair and equitable treatment of service members.
If anybody had told me this story 10 years ago, I would have said, bullshit, there's no way that could happen. There's no grasp in my reality, or there wasn't, excuse me. In 2012, there was no grasp of my reality that this could possibly happen in this world. And that happened in this nation. And that is what took the longest time for me to deal with the process. That this exactly happened, and it's not isolated, and it happens all the time. And you are guilty until proven innocent in a military court of law.
Yeah.
And whatever the climate is, whatever the political, whoever they are looking to appease, they're going to do exactly that.
Or wherever they're feeling pressure from.
Or wherever they're feeling pressure from. Because, I mean, look at there's no checks and balances. There's no the oversight. The people that are supposed to have the oversight, those are the people committing the crimes, the atrocities. Just like, and you're assuming this is the hard that I really had to choke down is they could choose anybody. There were several cases that really caused me hesitation, sleepless nights. Aside from my own, mine weren't the worst. Mine wasn't the worst that I've heard of. But you have young men, and the majority of us in the military are low to middle income come from families of lower income, and the government says you just committed a heinous crime, and you're going to go to prison for 30 years, or you can sign this plea bargain and do 5 and get out, or 3, whatever it is.
Yeah, but get out to what?
And get out to what? But the kid who is from Middle America, I mean, I sold everything, and I borrowed from my family and friends for my defense, for no reason, for not, because none of that mattered in the outcome, because it had already been. It was by design. The outcome was already predetermined. And there was no way I was going to be found not guilty. But the majority, I would challenge, of service members
don't have access to that.
I spent $98,500 on defense fees. It was $30,000 for my initial defense, and then it was $50,000 for my appellate defense, and then some change for some other attorneys who helped along the way.
Yeah.
Families don't have that to support their kid, and their kids, and their service member, he or she, are going to, with the pressure of the command and NCIS saying, you're going to go to prison for the rest of your life, or you just do a few years and then get out. I've seen that. My point being, I've seen that several times.
Yeah.
And it breaks my heart. The only reason I didn't do it was very easy for me to tell them, go fuck yourself, because I knew exactly what had happened. I knew the truth. But I also had nearly 20 years of life experience.
Yeah, you were longer in the tooth.
Yeah. I was definitely, with the exception of one person, I was the oldest guy at Miramar. I was the old guy. Most of them were kids. Some of them needed to be there. Some of them absolutely needed to be there. And that was very hard for me too, because every day I wanted to unleash on them.
Yeah.
Because they were the reason that I was accused of being that type of person. And just choking that down every day. But then there's plenty. I would say conservatively 30% of the guys that were there, absolutely.
Fuck, man.
No reason No reason. Other than political pressure. Other than, yeah.
How do you correct that? How does that get corrected?
This? Yeah, civilians.
I would hope that the military would be able to police themselves on
No,
this issue,
God,
but I don't think they will.
Absolutely not.
I don't think they're capable of doing it.
Absolutely not. Yeah, no. You know as well as I do, once you make staff,
You're a politician.
you're a politician.
Yeah.
And those are the only people that can make any change. So you're going to abide by mommy and daddy, what mommy and daddy tell you to do, or you're not going to get that next rank, that next star, that big paycheck, that huge pension when you go to the Beltway and then get all that contract work on the Beltway as well.
Fuck, man. What are you enjoying doing now in life?
Oh my goodness, everything. Everything's great, you know?
Yeah.
When
What
you've
are your
been,
plans going forward? Like, what's the next 2 years look like for you?
man,
You're saying you're all about that van life now.
well, I bought a van to get off the grid. I just need some peace and quiet for a little bit. I'm sure that's no surprise. But I need to get out in the big open. You know, you sleep in the van. You don't live in the van. You sleep, or you live outdoors. You get out into nature, and that's very healing.
It's a mobile fun machine.
Yeah.
Park that thing, sleep in, and like you said, get out in the great outdoors.
That's it. Yeah. So experience that freedom in the big open sky. And when you do, I mean, I'm not the first, and I won't be the last, but I read generations now that guys have come back from wars or had trials and tribulations and sought hiking across the Appalachians or just, and I'm not gonna. This was the interim. This was the other option, vice buying that cabin out in the middle of nowhere, as we discussed earlier, because that's not healthy. So.
That's like some legitimate isolation in place. I think that's one of the most dangerous things
that's dangerous.
Guys can do.
That's dangerous.
Yeah, what you're talking about is go out and explore. This country is amazing.
Absolutely
Geography,
amazing.
Topography, from a societal perspective. I mean, the van life seems pretty damn appealing to me too.
Well, it also affords me that while doing that, I want to still reach out to others. Everybody else suffers. I get it.
Yep.
And that's been a big part of my life for quite a while. But it doesn't have to be. And right now, especially right now, with the way things are, there's a lot of people suffering. Pain is part of life. You're going to have pain, but you don't have to suffer. And you certainly don't have to suffer alone. So when you're with people, as I'm sure you can attest to, you with like-minded people, maybe they've been there as well. Maybe they've been something. It doesn't have to be the exact same thing. In fact, it's quite often not. Trauma's trauma, and if you're available to others to offer up assistance to show them some sort of light out of the darkness, then what's a better job than that? I'll take that any day.
Agreed.
What a great opportunity. Yeah. So I think that's what I'll be doing for a while. So.
Well, to be honest, I can't think of a fucking better ending than that. We've been at it for almost 3 hours as it is anyway. Drive that van up here again sometime. Let's sit down again and have a chat.
I'd like that.
Let a few months go by, get some miles underneath the van.
Man, I'm not going to be a stranger. I love Montana. This place is fantastic.
Who doesn't?
Man.
We're not supposed to say that.
I was going to say
that when people are like, shut the fuck up about Montana.
That's how I think West Virginia must be great too, because they just, I'm sure it is. And I think it's people who live in West Virginia that talk shit about it.
The people who talk the most shit about Montana are those that live inside of the border of Montana.
Absolutely.
They're like, no, the winters here are terrible. It's 50 below zero for 75 straight days.
You don't want to go.
I just saw an amazing video, a guy drinking a beer talking about how all the deer in Montana have HIV, and they'll definitely bite you. Yes.
And the trees have COVID.
Of course they do. But yeah, man, let's circle the wagons again in the near future after you get some miles and some wide open space underneath those tires.
Thanks, brother.
Yeah, thanks for coming out, man.
Yeah,
Appreciate it.
Thank you.